Okay. Morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Marion Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Saturday, December 18th, 2021 to order. First order of business is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For anyone who is interested, there are masks and hand sanitizer at the front of the room. If you intend to make a public comment, please approach the front of the room and speak clearly towards the microphone. Feel free to adjust the height if you need it. It's best if it's pointing directly towards your face. You don't have to be in the microphone, but near the microphone helps. Okay. Are there any public comments?
There's looks like 2 people signed up.
Good morning.
Supervisor 198 Sweet Birch Lane in Stonecroft. I just wanted to bring one comment, and I wanted to bring it to the engineer. He's not here today, but it speaks maybe more in general character to what Landmark proceeds with. Two things. The sidewalk is done, if you haven't seen that. They have done a piece of the sidewalk, but the thing that concerns me is a statement that they made in our meeting about the pond. For 10 years, they said, well, only once we're going to do this, only once, but we are going to do it once. We have to drain the pond and check the liner and fill it back up, and we're good to go. I don't know what the engineering standards are. There is verbiage, Fred's seen it on the plots and plans, that speak to if you did increase the volume of the ponds, and they did. Around a time, I don't know if you recall, but they did increase the volume of the pond. In so doing, they do not need to drain the pond in its entirety after 10 years now. They just need to bring it down to the level of the silt and determine the level of silt, and it's a good to go object. And I don't know that McCarthy would know, I'm sure, if that's a standard, and if it's a standard, then we have no fight. But if it's not a standard, it speaks to what they intend to do on the way out, and McCarthy should be so warned.
Okay.
That's it.
So we'll follow up on that. Thank you very much for your comment. The other thing, I passed a paper to Dan I found some historical bond stuff. We found some other paperwork. I made a request for some information over to Jim McCarthy, so we've not gotten it back. I think they've been busy with end of year stuff. Not that it makes it right or wrong, but we just haven't gotten it so that we have an official commentary from the engineer of here's exactly what the bond amounts are. Here's exactly where they stand. Here's where they were reduced. Try to get a good history together for you based on the request that you guys had.
Well, I appreciate that. We have a question.
Sure.
You pointed to the middle column, told me this is what's left.
So
I'm looking at the far right hand column. It tells me $75,000.
it definitely should not be 75,000. And this is where, if they have, I know, I trust you, Dan. Well, we'll look at it together after the meeting. But
Okay.
the way that works is your bond amount is like you've put up 10% of it, and then the bond covers the rest. So if they had $1.9 million in projects, they have 192 million that's in. If they have 750,000 that is still out, they'd have 75,000. My recollection of how we went through the bond releases over the past like year and a half, 2 years, because they had, I think, 2 right before COVID hit. One of them we had to approve because they actually met the letter of everything that was in there. The other one we rejected because it was not satisfactory based on the plan. Based on that, it's still higher. I thought they were in the realm of closer to the 100 or in excess of 100,000 range, because of the actual full bond amount still being over $1 million. And this is where I had questions from McCarthy Engineering. They'd be the absolute kind of letter of the law on that. They're the group that keeps track of those amounts as it relates to construction. So
Look at 125,000. That wouldn't cover much.
well keep in mind, that's what they've paid out. The bond amount is significantly higher. Like what they have paid is not just what is covered. Like if they defaulted, your bond amount is considerably more. It's the same reason like with the treasurer, when the treasurer gets bonded, we pay it's like $900 a year. It's a $900,000 bond. So if there was any sort of negligence or malfeasance or errors that we had to call in the bond, we're not covered for $900. We're covered for $900,000. So like I said, I'll continue poking at McCarthy Engineering about that. We don't have the resolute answer, but in the course of digging around for other paperwork, I found that and I figured I'd share with you. I'll make you a copy before we leave too, so you have it.
Yeah, and Jim said he's gonna be out of town
Okay.
for the next meeting.
I mean,
If we wanted someone else from his firm, I'm sure they would.
we'll
be able
get
to come if he's
Craig
out
here and we'll just
personally.
make sure that Craig
Okay.
has the information.
And that's
But
what he said when we
Yeah.
went to the other meeting.
'cause
Yeah,
we had, I think, I know we've had the request out there for a couple of months, and for what it's worth, I apologize for how long it's taken, but last month when we had Craig here, I don't think it got passed along to Craig that he was supposed to bring that, so he had very little idea of what we were talking about.
so he
But
sent an email.
yeah, so we'll
Okay.
just, we'll send him an email, give him a call and make sure that they remember it. But the ask is out there and it's not lost. It's not forgotten on our part. We found
Yeah.
some paperwork and I found that one was probably the most in-depth informative thing because we had letters about like requests for reduction and things like that we can give you too. But that was the one that actually had a kind of a line by line breakdown of things.
Thank you.
Did you have a comment in addition to that or?
Yeah, one comment would be that Landmark supposedly surveyed the pond
Okay.
to determine the depth of the pond. We've not seen that documentation. Again, that's their plan. You mentioned McCarthy as a separate thing. I previously asked that McCarthy tell us what his inspection criteria was going to be for the roads, and more specifically, the curbs. We have curbs that have cracking in it. Well, from Dan's place, there's 2 cracks 6 inches apart in the curb. That tells me that should be cut out and replaced. Landmark has just gone through and patched and cut where they cut the top surface of the curb. They put a patch on there that does nothing for the structure where the crack is. And we would like to hear from McCarthy what his criteria are. We're very concerned also on the alligator and I call it spiderweb cracking of the roads with the highway people call it alligatoring, where the subsurface has been rolled on so much it's cracked and no longer has structural strength. How he addresses that. We know this is coming up in the near, well, it'll be once spring sets in, but they're going to want to do that paving, but we'd like to have a reduction order.
Do you CC us with those requests on emails?
I haven't followed up.
Okay, so
Yeah.
before you leave, I set up a distribution list. It's supervisors at mariontwpperks.com. I'll write it down for you.
Okay.
The way that distribution list works is it goes to the 3 of us. So
Okay.
if you ever want to CC stuff super easy, that's the way to do it.
I think Jim has expressed in the past the request to come from us.
Yeah.
So, because.
In kind, if you have
Yeah.
something like that, rather than reaching out to McCarthy, you can send it directly to us and one of us will.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that. We had made that request through you.
Yeah. Okay. And so we'll make sure that
We'll
Jim
follow up.
addresses those
Amplify it
concerns.
and-
Yeah,
And bring it back to you some more.
Yeah.
So- On my notes here, I took three action items: bond breakdown and levels, questions about road inspection, specifically around alligatoring, and the curb inspection and the criteria therein. So, okay.
Thanks.
no, thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the items for discussion. First item on the agenda is to adopt the 2022 budget. We will be doing that Thursday night rather than at this meeting, just
Yeah,
for the sake of
sorry, I
propriety.
had
No,
motion.
it's okay. But
Because it was
it's,
advertised to adapt it on Thursday night.
yeah,
so.
yeah, and that's fine. Just on there, this was accepted at the October 28th Board of Supervisors meeting. It was advertised, available for public inspection. We did not receive any requests for public inspection.
And there is no meeting this Thursday night.
No,
It's
not
the
this
30th.
Thursday, it's the next Thursday. We
30th.
moved
Yep.
it out because of the whole
The holiday.
holiday thing.
Right.
Okay, next, also for Thursday night, but just as a point of facts, is to adopt the 2022 real estate street light and septic pump out inspection tax rates. The real estate tax rate is being set at 2.0 mils, street light tax at $0.65 per front footage, and the pump out inspection tax at $50. Resolution 2021-7, which Andy will be preparing, will be available for us on Thursday night. Next is the Cold Summit Farmers Preserve Industrial Park Traffic Planning and Design. I got to think of a shorter way to say that.
CSP.
Just think Cold
Yeah.
Summit.
Or Cold Summit.
Yeah, the Cold Summit project. Project is in Mill Creek Township predominantly, which is Lebanon County with about 1.4 acres in Marion. Traffic study has been completed. Irene and Sue were at a meeting for that. I'll turn that over to you in just a second. And this was the net product of a traffic study that we went in with Wilmelsdorf. So Irene.
I think it was a very productive meeting to go to for us. I think the bottom line is because it's a Mill Creek Township project and they get a lot of benefits from it from tax perspective. My gut feeling is that it's going to happen, whether or not we oppose it. It seems that Wilmelsdorf borough is going to be the borough that's most negatively impacted. They're talking about 245 additional trucks coming through
245 tractor trailer trucks.
a day. And they're
Coming in, going out. So that's 450 trips
daily.
daily.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Andy at the planning commission meeting the other night, and he said something about the grand total is actually 490 because of some of the
right,
other.
and they were talking about anywhere from 200 to 300 employees.
Yeah.
We had asked about, they're supposed to have a designated route going up through Wilmelsdorf to 422, but there's nothing prohibiting them from coming through town. And that may be a problem for us down the road. We get zero tax benefit from this. And there was a gentleman there from Stonecroft who asked, I thought, an excellent question as far as the impact from emissions from the vehicles and stuff. And they are conducting a study. And so that information will be available to us at some point. But I think my gut feeling was because Mill Creek is minimally impacted by this and only receives a large benefit, that they're going to more likely than not approve the plan. I mean, that's just my gut feeling with it. And we are negatively impacted without any benefits.
So I think the next questions that we should have should be directly to the solicitor in terms of if we can't outright stop the project, what are our mitigating actions? What are things that we can do? Can we, because of it has a section into Marion Township,
Yep.
Can we require certain site obstructions, tree lines and things like that as part of our saldo?
They gave us some anticipatory drawings. It's actually what they showed us was minimal. There's a tree line, there's fields, so that we're not going to be able to see that much of it. It's the traffic that impacts us the most, to be honest.
The traffic thing, there's some things that I can immediately think of that we might be able to do, in the sense that like along Main Street or any of the other corridors, we might have to do a traffic study, like a traffic count. I don't think it's anywhere near as involved as what was just done for that one. But you could actually restrict traffic over a certain weight class so that we don't have tractor trailers going down certain roads.
Yep.
What's the weight limit on the S bridge? I don't know.
It's anything that's lower than class 2. So you're not allowed to take, you certainly can't, you're not supposed to take big rigs over it.
So
Oh, wait, I'm thinking of the wrong bridge. I'd have to look on that one.
From here to.
Yeah, I'd have to look and see what.
It used to be an S, we still call it
Yeah,
S bridge.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I apologize. I was thinking of one of the like culverts that we had. I'd have to look and see, but we could certainly restrict.
And that's a PennDOT bridge, but.
We
still.
can see, the thing about that is if we can't
Marion
restrict the
Township.
bridge, we can restrict everything going up to the bridge.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if the
Right.
bridge is weighted
Right.
for like fully loaded big
Yeah.
rigs. If you can't get to the bridge because of
Right.
other restrictions, then
So we would
point.
have to restrict it coming into town.
into
as
town
well.
and
Yeah.
from the 422 side on the west end to
Well, I
the
would
east
do it
end.
the other way too,
Well,
because.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
no,
what I'm
I'm
saying.
saying
We'd have
both
to do it
directions.
on all fronts. That way
Yeah.
you don't have people trying to do something crazy with coming in off of 422 on like Sheridan
Right.
and trying to take a really
Yep,
harsh turn
right.
there. But we can navigate that as
Yeah.
like a last resort. My curiosity is how much traction do we have from a legal stance still to object to this? And then if we
Yeah.
don't have any legal purchase on this, what are the things that we actually can enforce in terms of protecting the Stonecroft residents from having a warehouse right in their backyard? Can we make sure that there's like a tree line or a minimum X number of feet that it has to be away from whatever per our zoning and per saldo? So I think there's going to be some good follow-up conversation to be had about
Yeah,
this. And
Yeah,
When she said Jim McCarthy requested that this Ann Langen sent, or Ann,
Whatever.
whatever, from
Yeah.
Langen, send PDF plans to Jim and he would disperse
Distribute
them,
them,
distribute them. Because we've not seen anything yet.
Yep.
Peter, did
Yes.
you get the large packet with the crash study and stuff that I sent?
Yes, I did. And that was a lot of very good information.
396 pages.
Yeah, it was not exactly light reading, but there was a lot of good material in
Did you
there.
send that to the township? Because I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, I thought I did.
I don't remember seeing.
Oh,
it.
geez. Okay, so if I didn't, I will forward that to you,
Sure,
like,
sure.
Okay,
as soon as we're
just
done
so
with the
that
meeting.
I can
Um,
save it and,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna print it out.
generally speaking, other than I get some spam emails from certain people in the community, just about everything I get, I just immediately forward
Yeah.
to the office email and then the supervisor's distribution
Yeah.
list. So if I didn't, I apologize.
Yeah.
It might have been in and you might have missed it because it was in as an attachment.
Yeah.
Um,
oh, look.
yeah. Either way, yes, I saw it. And it was a lot of material in there.
250 emails when I came back from
Yeah.
vacation, so it took me a while to get through that.
Yeah. Yes.
I did a quick perusal of study. One thing that was very interesting was that they really didn't look at the intersections in Molesdorf, which is really not our problem, your problem as a town, but the way tractor trailers have to
Yeah,
navigate those
right, and that was-
intersections was not well
Right, and
addressed.
that was a big discussion, and
Mhm.
Langdon was talking about, the lady was talking about, well, we could do this, we could do that, and
I
almost.
mean, one of the things
Yeah.
that Wilmsdorf council members said was, again, there was a comment made that they expected a 2-second delay with these trucks coming in and out.
Yeah.
And Bruce Edwards said, 2 seconds, there's more than 2 seconds now.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
add 3 or 4 tractor trailer trucks in a row,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be more than 2
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
Two seconds is
Yeah.
1,
An hour
2.
in each direction. and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah, it was, right. It's just
Yeah.
physically, their roads just
Yeah.
can't, it's the maneuvering of the trucks, they gave this potential plan and that potential plan. It, to me, it just didn't make sense. I don't know why they would want to build in that location, other than what they explained to us, it's access to
Rail.
rail.
Yeah.
They said, and the property has other features that make it ideal, plus it was for sale.
Mhm.
So it was, I just can't
'Cause
fathom
that
that.
question was
Yeah.
asked too, why would somebody pick a location there?
Yeah,
Well, it's
Where
like,
there's not good access to a highway?
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean-
she didn't have a good answer, other than it's
Yeah.
rail
well,
accessible.
it's rail accessible and you do have maybe not the same level of access that you have if you put something on like I-78, but you still have pretty close access to 419,
Right.
422
Yeah.
and 501. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of get it, but the going back to the intersection, the thing that concerns me is that intersection by the McDonald's there's already a pretty high rate of accidents.
yep, yep.
Any given time, like once a month, there will be police and fire there cleaning something up. You add that many more cars and that many more trucks to it, you're gonna have more accidents just by percentage, and you're gonna probably have more severe accidents because of the size of the vehicles.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're gonna, Sheridan Road, I think has got enough bends and whatnot, the truckers aren't gonna want to use
Yeah.
that getting
Right.
through the bridge, but heading up through Richland,
Mhm.
that's gonna be a nice, clear, easy path for them to get to 422 and west and 501. I don't see that really well covered.
Yeah.
Because the truckers aren't gonna want to go through the door.
Yeah,
Well, they encountered the same problem coming from Richland going into Newmanstown. You have that small light intersection where they have to make a left-hand turn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, Wilmsdorf
Yeah.
Borough was very vocal with their
Mhm.
concerns, and I don't think, you're not gonna keep Connie quiet, so.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, it was, again, it was a good meeting for us because we're able to understand and see what their plans were and the opposition to it, but the majority of the project is in Mill Creek.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem is for us, at least, so.
I'm just getting in and out of that facility is going to be equally fun because that road doesn't facilitate left turns into it coming up 419 and the right turns.
They put a gravel road in, and it appears to me that they've already done well on that property.
I think that might be a little premature because obviously nothing has been approved yet, but if somebody,
They're probably doing core bore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it It could be any number of things. If somebody puts a gravel access road in, that's just a zoning
And
permit.
I think
That's-
from what they said, the driveway is huge,
Yeah.
huge.
And
driveway
it's from
into
that
the
truck company.
Mm.
Yeah.
Peter, going back to our problem, Staaby's problem with traffic flowing through town.
Yes.
Several township meetings, you folks have spoken about deterrents to slow the traffic down. You had spoken about speed bumps.
Oh, we don't want speed bumps.
No.
We had spoken about speed bumps. We don't want speed bumps. So, and this is, I know, a near and dear to Kelly's heart issue. The line painting, they did half of my line painting and I still don't have an answer. Oh, okay. So they did a good percentage of it. So I went and I drove around and they did a bunch of the yellow lines. Like they did a good percentage of Main Street. They did the roads that we oiled and chipped and things like that. They, however, did not do my outside white lines and they didn't do my crosswalks. So the plan that I had for traffic calming along Main Street was crosswalks.
Right.
You put crosswalks in. Visually, that breaks up the road and gives you less of that wide open shot. You're less likely to speed if you're not paying attention. You're going to have people that are just flooring it, and no matter what you do, you can't do that. The next thing is once the crosswalks are in, we're going to order some of those little like pedestrian caution signs that go in the middle of the road. Won't cause traffic obstruction, but will help visually tell people like there are people around here, you need to slow down.
And we'll have signage accordingly,
correct.
further up saying
If
pedestrian
you're
crossing
housing ahead,
ahead.
you know, that good stuff. I want to see, because I know I had asked about this before and a straight answer. I need to talk to Jim McCarthy again about this is there are rules for how close and how far apart you can put speed limit signs. I want to put things at the absolute like minimum distance so that like it's basically just beating you over the head that it is the speed limit going into town. That's
the problem coming off of 422 here.
Yes.
That most of it's obscured by brush and trees. I can't see any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Butch, if you go out and you see that, just go cut things, do what you got to do.
I know that too.
Yeah, but and then I don't want to say the last leg of it is especially for coming off of 422 onto the road. There is in the spring we're going to have as part of the road work rumble strips cut in so that this is the same thing as like when you would approach a toll plaza. When you're exiting the highway at speed, you get an auditory feedback of I need to slow down. All of those things going together, I'm hoping will help drive down the unintentional speeding, especially I got to see where they're at with that, but we've authorized a stop sign study for 3 intersections on Main Street. Our hope is that one of the intersections will meet all of the required warrants and we'd be able to have a stop sign there as well to further break up traffic flow. If you don't have basically like 1.4 miles of nice, wide open, long, unobstructed road, the temptation is to speed, even if you're
gonna get 200 to 400 new employees.
Yeah.
At this facility.
Yep.
And those 200 to 400 employees have to come from someplace.
Yeah,
And I suspect some of them is gonna be coming from the west.
I would fully believe
They're
that.
gonna come right through south.
Absolutely. I don't doubt that for a second. So Kelly, I also gave Butch A1's number so that between the two of us, we can get an answer because I don't have an answer, unfortunately. Yeah. Because that was supposed to be done months ago, as you well know, and they came out and they did some of it. I came out, I met with them. There's measure marks on the street where they did stuff and then they just didn't come back for the second part of it.
And it's that trial.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's on the painting itinerary that they just didn't do. So it's
I believe it's the way in the season.
see that's like when I talked to the guy, he wasn't so much seasonal as it was weather. And we've had warm days, and that was the day that they went out it was warm and they squeezed me in. So we'll have to follow that, but that's the plan. That's the goal to cut that down, is because you don't want to put speed bumps in because plowing is a nightmare then. And then you have people complaining about speed bumps and people bottoming out their cars. And it's
Fire trucks.
to say it solves one problem, but creates others. Whereas if you try to take a little more gentle touch to it, the stop signs being the most aggressive of the things that we're doing, a lot of those things will help drive that down. If you have somebody who's just going to floor it to see how fast they can go, no matter what you do, they're not going to do that. Even if you have a stop sign there, if they're going to do illegal stuff, they're going to do illegal stuff.
If
But
you could have 419 with the shakers down and go straight across. You come out down on 501 by air gas place. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But that road contains 3 big speed bumps. It's a back country road, and people used to use it to go straight down from Schaefer's down to 501.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to use that.
Well, I was gonna say, I think maybe they put the speed bumps in to deter people from using the road. I think it's less about speeding and more about like local traffic only. But bottom line is, yeah, it might be a little overkill for Main Street, but it is something that we're actively doing. But unfortunately, like with many things with small government, a lot of times the wheels spin slowly, especially the traffic study. I don't expect to see that until probably at least February for the stop signs, but hopefully. Well, for Cold Summit, yes.
No, for.
Oh, did they? They did not tell me that they did that, so that's good.
We haven't received anything.
Yeah,
Last week, they were.
well, good to know. So we may actually see that sooner based on that, but I'll reach out to Jim McCarthy and see if he got anything, because I haven't seen anything, and
No.
No,
Yeah.
they have to take all the paperwork back.
yeah.
But, no, a fellow was out here, and I stopped and asked him what he's doing. He said, "Traffic study."
Good.
Jim, can we put a toll booth down there?
I was gonna say, I would look into toll booth and also look into.
There used to be a toll on, at the bridge.
Yeah, the Stoutsburg Turnpike.
Yeah.
Those two things, if you're paying to go on a toll road, but the second thing is photo enforcement.
Mm.
And I mean, that's automatic. You don't have to.
There's,
After installation, it's very.
Yep.
yeah, as I say,
We,
it's
we talked about
yeah.
that before too.
the toll plaza stuff is different,
Yeah, no,
Uh,
but
but-
photo
but
enforcement.
you can't have automated photo enforcement generally for legal reasons. And like the speed sign, whenever I get that running, you can't even use that coupled with a camera because of legal reasons around radar. Like even the local police aren't allowed to do that. So we're within the confines of what we can and can't do. We're doing what we can. So, but
We're
next
just as frustrated as you are, trust me.
next
Yeah.
spring is going to be exciting though. Between that and the culverts, there's going to be a flurry of activity that you'll see on Main Street and a number of other places in the township. One of the grants, which I gotta, again, another thing I gotta talk to Jim McCarthy, I'll jump ahead to one of the culverts. We actually have, by the nature of how that permit was placed, there's no expiration on it. So we could conceivably start working on it. But we know that in January, they open up the dirt and low volume
Yep.
gravel road grant. So we're gonna be, since we already have that
Yeah.
project designed, we actually already have the grant request populated, because that's one we requested in the past. Rather than start on our own and pay a bunch of money out of pocket, we're gonna essentially tread water for a couple of months, request it again, because if we get it, it basically pays for
Right.
itself.
Sue had mentioned
So-
that to Jim when we
Yeah.
saw him. So Jim said, yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be resubmitted.
So that one, we're gonna be prepared to do on our own, but hopefully not have to do on our own.
Yep.
The other 3 that we have in here, we're just waiting for the GP, I was mixed up GP 11 and GP 7, but the permit with
Those permits.
yeah, the permit with the
State
Department of
permits.
Environmental Protection.
Yeah.
PennDOT permits.
Yeah, and PennDOT, we're still waiting on those to come back. Once they come back, we'll be able to start work on them hopefully in early spring. And now that we have the new like backhoe loader, that's going to make that tremendously easier to do.
It'll make Butch happy.
Yeah.
I have to learn to operate
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, between everybody that we've got on here, even if it means a little extra time of you guys running the machines, it's still going to be more cost effective than bidding it out. So other than that, there's really no updates on the culvert. So I'll jump back to, do we have anything else before I move,
On
like
the
completely move on
culverts?
for the Cold Summit?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the culverts, do you have any questions, comments, or
No,
concerns?
we just got that email about the Reichert Road, so it needs more studies done.
Okay,
Did you
because
read that
I
email?
did, it's
Yeah. The environmental impact.
yeah, so
Yep.
I talked to Jim McCarthy. He said they had already, the weird thing about that is they had sent that over as part of the packet. Like it's already in
Yeah.
there, so he just needs to talk to DEP.
Review it
and-
again.
Yeah, because it might have gotten lost somewhere
Gotcha.
in the circulation of getting to them, but that was part of the original submission.
Okay,
So he's gonna take care of that. I already talked to him about that.
excellent.
Spur Road, that's done. It looks nice. The paving is all done. The only thing that we have to do is we need to sign an ordinance to officially have that stop sign there. The other thing that I kind of want to do, and I want to look at, I was out 2 days ago driving around looking at some of the roads. I kind of want to put a intersection ahead sign there so that as you're approaching it from either side, you realize that there's an intersection there and you should be cautious. Because you can't really see Spur Road from the one direction. Like if you're coming at it from, I think it's from east to west, you can see it just fine because it's on the, would be on the right side there. But if you're coming the opposite direction, it's pretty much straight with the road. You don't see it until you're basically on top of it.
So we do have signage like slow down
intersection ahead.
Okay.
And then the lady that was at the last meeting that had the comments about like the stop sign issues with visibility, I went and drove that. I think there's not really a good way because it's a road that doesn't have a stop sign on it. And it's a stop sign that feeds onto the road. That's another one where you can't really put stop sign ahead because the people that are seeing the stop sign, they see the stop sign. It would be caution, slow, intersection ahead. Maybe some of the little like triangular attention getting signs, because the way that works is you come up over a hill and pretty much right at the bottom of the hill, there's a T intersection with a stop sign.
I'm talking about small.
Smalls.
Small woods.
Yeah. So that would be another one that if we order, I don't know, maybe just for the sake of getting a couple to have spare, like intersection ahead signs, we get like 10 of them, and then we just start peppering them places where we know are problematic or suspected to be problematic.
Yes, definitely. We're all about safety.
Yeah, I mean, and signage is a simple enough thing that we can do. It's relatively inexpensive and it does help. Like that, was it Wintersville and Stouffburg? The one with the boulders, the intersection with the boulders. They had a huge problem with trucks trying to turn there, and by the shape of the road crossing over. So we changed the ordinance. We put signs up so that trucks can't turn there. And that seems to have helped tremendously. We haven't gotten any calls or complaints since. I drove out past there the other day and there's not tire marks in their lawn like there had been for a while, that it looks like an actual nice lawn. So it seems to have been working.
Just a comment in general on the culverts. So our liquid fuels funding, we had a significant decrease this year from $15,000. And because of plans to go greener, I believe the anticipation of funds in general for liquid fuels will continue to trend downward. So it's something just to kind of keep on the back burner in your mind over budgeting. What are we going to do? We can only hope that the state comes up with a different method of funding that, because it doesn't just, it affects everyone across the state. So, and it's a significant portion of revenue for most municipalities, townships, etc., when it comes to road repair. So now we have to think of considering what else are we going to do to help our budget with respect to any kind of road work. So $15,000 is a huge chunk for us. But if that number continues to trend down, we're in trouble with funding.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to be cognizant of. Same thing with the income that we have around like building and stuff like that. With Stonecroft finishing up that section of things, we're likely going to see a pretty strong decrease in building permits and revenue therein.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm going to try to do then, just thinking of it now, I'll see what we received in prior years and see what the percentage trend downward is. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. When
you do that, I think it would be an interesting sub point on that data of specifically like with the building permits, what percentage of our building permit revenue annually for the past 3 or 4 years was stone.
Okay.
Because if we say like, are they finished, they're not doing anything anymore, we can effectively drop whatever the average of that is out.
Okay.
And see where we're sitting, because
that should be pretty easy. Well,
it shouldn't be pretty easy. It's doable.
It's doable because
but
the addresses, it's knowing all the addresses.
Yeah, you should be able to go by the address in the like the memo field, but it's gonna be a little bit of work, manual sifting of things, but that will give us a much truer number as we go into 2023 of how we need to forecast the budget.
Yeah.
But there are no more buildings.
Oh, I know they actually put the last one in this past week, so we're gonna see the effects of that during 2022, but we need to budget 2023 with the expectation that it's non-existent anymore. Okay, next thing on the agenda, I haven't seen any updates, but I don't know if because I abstained and I'm losing myself if I'm not getting them. was the request that I had about abandoning that small unpaved portion or that section by my house of Shady Cabin Circle.
Haven't seen that.
So-
thing.
Nothing.
Okay, so we'll jump to the next one. Next is the road project for 2022. I'm getting a full list and full overview together of what we're planning to do. It's predominantly culverts. The secondary focus being on traffic safety and calming, anything that we can do in terms of signage, painting, additional line painting. We'll go to do line painting next year. If there's areas that are a safety hazard for like big potholes that we need to maybe do a full cutout on that small section. Obviously patching, if there's areas that we need to address that are patching related. And then if the budget allows it, trying to maybe do one or two small sections of roads that are oil and chip. But I'm going to get a kind of an overview and a map together like I did this past year.
Are you,
I didn't get the list out from
Oh, no, it's okay.
the road list.
Yeah, so I have all that. So we had cut down some of the roads that were on oil and chip. Honestly speaking, between knowing what our budget is and knowing everything we have to do, we're probably not going to revisit them. There may be one or two that if we have it in the budget and they're the one that needs remediation the most, we'll try and target that. But the culverts are going to soak up a large majority of what we
But
have
then
fund
keep in
wise.
mind too, that when the final rules come out for the ARP
We may
money,
be able to use
we may
that.
be able to use
Yeah.
that ARP money for
Yeah.
culverts, but we don't know that
And
yet.
and this is where, like I did last year, I want to prepare more things as like a list of things that we want to do. And then if we only get through 5 out of the 10 of them per the budget, so be it. But if we have extra budget or we receive extra money or, you know, whatever the situation is, that we're kind of prepared, we can go, okay, we were budgeted for 1 through 5, but we now have enough money to do 6 and 7. So
so are you trying to get, like, I know we had talked about this previously too, like a big overview over
yes,
the whole aspect of things so
Yeah.
that once we, I
The-
just feel like we're plugging leaks
yeah,
constantly.
the culverts
Yeah.
are the biggest hole in the
Yeah.
boat right now.
Yeah,
And they're a ticking time bomb, to be
Yeah,
Because
honest.
those have to be replaced because they're
Yep.
failing.
They're failing. They're
yeah.
actively failing. So
Yeah.
once we have that in place,
then we can go
we
on
can
and-
actually start getting
Yeah.
into the pattern. And had we not had I mean, the culverts were not in great shape anyway, but had we
Mm-hmm.
not had that severe sets of rainfall the past couple of years that did a lot of damage to the culverts,
Mhm.
we probably could have started to get into a pattern and done a year of oil and chipping on a circuit, but it really kind of shifted things.
Right, and we're gonna continue to get these heavy rains and the
Yeah.
severe weather. I mean, that's the bottom line.
The upside is we're
Yeah.
running out of culverts for them to break. So if we
Well,
replace these culverts, we'll be
yeah.
there. The only other one
Okay.
that it's less of an issue, but it is a chronic problem is the one that's on Canal Road. That small section by like Mervyn Hoover and me,
Yes.
it sinks every year. Every year we put like cold patch on it. The only way to really fix that is
You
to
have to-
cut it out
yeah.
and put in a box culvert.
Mhm.
That's the only way to fix it. And that's going to be probably $80,000 to $90,000 to do.
That's pretty much the chunk of the ARP
Yeah.
funds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is why we've not been doing it, because
Yep.
it's relatively low volume.
Yep.
It inconveniences people, but it's not a major safety hazard.
Yep.
Honestly speaking, when it floods, whether we had the culvert
Right.
fixed or not there. And it's not unpatchable. It's not like it's falling through like some of the culverts
yeah.
are. So
Have you given any thought to that concept of having that swing gate on Canal for one?
I don't oppose it.
Okay.
I don't oppose it at all, because I know, I don't tend to play games with standing water, but I know
Yeah.
not everybody makes that same distinction. And from driving that, I know when I pull up, the last time it flooded and I had to wait like 7 or 8 hours to get home,
Right.
there was a good 3 feet of water on the road. If you
Right.
tried to take a car through that, you
Right.
would have had a really
Yeah.
bad time.
Which you were out with John, and John's idea was to put the swing gate there, so that road closed, so that it's physically closed, because people still went through.
People just move the cones and move the
Yeah.
barricades.
Yeah, It was ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have another problem, you have a rescue issue, you have
Mhm.
loss of life, things like that, so.
Yeah. No, I don't have any opposition
Yeah.
to it. The only thing we have to work out is if it's something that exceeds the right of way, we're gonna have to get like
Right.
agreements from property owners and things like that.
Right. I guess where would you even look for a swing gate like that?
You just call supply companies.
Tractor supply.
Yeah,
Tractor supply?
Yeah.
Okay,
like any tractor supply or industrial supply company,
yeah.
Tractor Supply has cheap gates.
Yeah.
places that do fencing probably
If
would
you
have that
find
too.
yourself out there or something like that, if you offhand know the width of the road and what we would need, if you could get a quote, if you're there, it's not of any urgency, but it's something I'd definitely like
Mm-hmm.
to see, kind of get the wheels in motion at, because as we start getting, again, now we're more into the snow season, but as we get towards the spring, we get the heavier rains again, that's a big problem. I don't want to see a headline, vehicle drove into water, so-and-so died. I don't want to see that
Yeah.
happening in Marion Township, so,
All these, sense makes,
you got your contacts, yeah. Yeah. If if next time you're on Canal and you have a relative good idea of where you think that would work well on that road.
I think I
Yeah.
know both
Yeah.
sides where that should go, because I know where
Yeah.
it floods
Yeah, just
normally.
get an estimate for me and we'll bring it back for discussion because I think it's important. It's a inexpensive
Mhm.
remedy that I think can potentially save a life, so.
Yeah, we'd want to make sure when we do, we don't have to like
Yeah.
action this right now, but it would be 3 posts. You'd have the post that has the gate on it. You have the post that you could lock it so
Yeah.
that it's open, and then the other side of the road on the outside of like the guardrail
Yeah.
on the one side, or when you open it, you can lock it
Yep,
open or
Yep.
lock it closed in that space.
yep,
You have to have 2 gates, one on either side of
yeah, yeah.
the flood.
You might have to do, oh, were you talking like both sides of the roads or both sides?
No, both.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to have one on like the east side and one on the west side for sure. But I'm saying on the actual road itself, you have to have 3 points so that you can secure it open or secure it closed. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, I talked to Butch about this, is when we do the reappointments this year, I'd actually like to appoint Butch as the roadmaster since he's here day to day. And then, as always, Butch will have my full cooperation and disposal for doing things that require like submissions online or getting grant packets together, doing planning documentation. I'll help him do all of that, but he'll more or less be doing what he's doing now. We'll just have some additional responsibility and the title to go with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can get
We'll
you,
have
we
to
can get you a name
another
tag.
thing. We should have. name
Yeah, we
tags.
should.
Yeah,
I say
we
that
should.
mostly
And
jokingly, but we should have Jane.
unfortunately, when it comes to a disaster or an emergency, and we're all out there and everyone's just looking at us like, who are these people? So I'll get John to work on that.
The vests help. You'll a
Yeah.
little more official, but name tags are good.
Name
I like the
tags,
idea of name
Because
tags.
if there's an incident, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Where there's an incident and you have to account for it. We've had a couple of search and rescues already, which fortunately have gone quite well. So, but again, things are just getting more volatile, especially the weather. And so we have to be responsible in responding to it, and safety again is my #1 concern. So
Yeah.
I'll talk to him about that then.
We'll get your bids and start.
Yeah. Kind of the segue to that 2022 road project, UGI has asked for the list of roads that we're targeting for maintenance and repaving during next year as part of their ahead of paving program. So once I have that, I'll supply that over to UGI again. We're more than likely to give it to Sue, and Sue can give it to UGI, but we'll get that to them. That way
do
they,
this
every,
year.
it's an annual thing. Next up on the agenda is the Eagle disposal contract. This is a 3-year contract. I'm going to skip reading all of the costs and things like that because I've gone over that numerous times. We had discussion at last month's meeting about enforcing penalties for non-performance. The solicitor's office is looking into that. We were also looking at what we want to do for a request for proposal. There were some questions around what recyclables we want to have as part of that bid. At this point, like I said last time, I'm kind of the opinion that we go with whatever the most recent one was. I know Wilmersdorf did theirs not too long ago as part
I
of the
didn't have
COG.
a chance to call different townships. I did go on South Heidelberg's website. They have an application for JP Mascaro, so obviously they have JP Mascaro.
Yeah.
But I don't know, they don't have their contracts up on the website.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
just
it's
didn't have a chance to. call
it's
anybody,
okay.
so.
We can ask Andy to grab that because he's the solicitor for
Yeah.
the various municipalities that are involved in that, is just find out what was in their request for proposal on what recyclables. Is it like number 1, number 2, number 3, but not number 4 and 5 or whatever.
Well, and that's kind of regulated by the market, like.
Yes, but no, because you can actually put in there that you want to have something specifically recycled.
Okay.
Most times places won't explicitly do those things because they're cost prohibitive to recycle. It's more expensive to recycle than it is to just throw
I
out.
believe that Wilmersdorf just says no glass at all.
Okay.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
And there's a shortage.
No, that you cannot recycle glass.
Well, she means just as a nationwide, there's a shortage of glass
Oh,
because
yeah.
the supply chain problems right
Yeah.
now. But
I just thought the new
Well, that's our current one.
Yeah.
You can do glass with the current. She's saying Wilmsdorf you
Wilmsdorf
can't.
says no glass.
Yeah, so
That's
this
so
is,
sad.
this is where I want to try to recycle as much as we can, but we want to make
Yeah.
sure that it's
It's
cost
some-
effective.
yeah.
Yeah. So we just need to find out what we want to put in the RFP and then we put the RFP out.
Yeah.
But we
Someone
do,
just come in.
I don't know. Go ahead and check.
No?
I have a question on the recycle.
Yeah.
What percentage of the cost is charged to recycle? And is it required that you recycle? Because we've been looking in Stonecroft, what we pay for recycling.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
We pay, I actually have the figures up here. So for the first 3 years of the contract, it was $16.80 per quarter for recycling. If we go into year 4, if we renew, it's $17.55 per quarter. And if we go into year 5, it's $18.30 per quarter.
But we also get money back on a
We
recycling
get
grant.
grants,
What was
yeah.
it? Like, it's a couple $1,000s.
Well, because Dutch Valley has
Yeah.
such a high
Yeah.
tonnage amount,
We
it's
got-
normally about $2,000
Yeah.
every year, and this 2020 was $4,000.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say they almost
Dutch
doubled it.
Valley had a huge amount of cardboard
Yeah.
recycling.
Yeah, one of the big reasons that we're, aside from the fact that we get a lot of complaints about like poor quality of service or garbage getting strewn around, is the recycling. We get the tonnage reports from them and it is
It's down.
all over the place and
Yeah.
it has just been steadily trending down. I know from a personal standpoint, especially with COVID and, not going out a whole lot, I've been getting a lot of stuff delivered. My recycling volume has actually gone up. The amount of stuff that I have put out for recycling week over week has increased, but the tonnage reports that we get from Eagle has been going down, which doesn't make sense. Kind of leads one to believe that they're throwing a lot of the recycling away, which is distinctly not good.
We think in Stonecroft, because they don't provide us covered recycle bins, that any paper product that's out there,
You get rain,
like this,
yeah.
that's declared trash.
Mhm.
And it's sort of foolish. And what times I've been wondering, why are we even bothering to do this?
So I know there's weirdness with like the roads, the agreement of the roads and that whole like not ownership thing. I'm wondering if that's something that's Stone, the HOA would be interested in going in for recycling. I don't recall anything specifically about you having to have your own. You're allowed, I think by
That was gonna be my next question.
yeah.
Okay, we're slowly approaching Stone Group landmark
Mhm.
going. We now become part of Marion Township.
But you're still a private community.
Yeah, I say there's
Still a
some
private
weirdness
community.
there. We can certainly have a follow-up conversation. I wouldn't even mind setting a meeting between like Stonecroft residents, the HOA, us, the solicitor, the engineer. But there's some weirdness I know with the way that the wording is specifically around the roads where I'm not a lawyer here, but there's some things in there that says basically like in perpetuity, the roads will not be turned over to Marion Township. So I'm not going to comment on that one, but I don't recall anything specifically in there for a lot of the other services.
But
Like if you-
that could be reversed at a later date.
Potentially, and again,
Decision from the board.
I'm not an attorney, but I'm not
Probably
personally
not.
opposed to the idea.
Yeah.
It would just mean if we take over that additional road, we have to look at maybe getting another plow truck to be able to cover that kind of roadway and so that we're not leaving things closed for a long period.
Right.
That's a problem I'm willing to deal with. But in the question of the trash, I don't remember anything in there that says that you wouldn't be able to voluntarily opt in to municipal services, considering you are paying taxes. You are tax-paying members of the community. You're just a private community that is running to separate bylaws. So,
It's definitely a question for Andy.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think the roads would be a bigger problem.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
like eating an elephant,
Yeah.
little bits at a time. So if you have an interest in trash, let's tackle that one first and then just start checking the boxes off.
Can I just make a comment just for the recording if
Yeah.
anybody's listening?
Yeah.
Eagle Disposal does require that any trash be put in a bag.
Yeah.
In your trash can.
Yeah.
So you are not supposed to put loose trash in your can.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why it's blowing all over.
Yeah.
When they dump it in the truck.
Yeah, so
But if it's
that's,
in a bag,
that's fair.
it's just should go in the truck.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
So I'm wondering.
And
if
that
that's
was,
the
they
problem.
made that rule during
Yeah.
COVID just
Yeah.
to prevent their guys from
So-
touching stuff.
I mean,
And that
I
might be
get
the
it.
problem with some of the phone calls we've been getting lately.
Right.
So,
Now, recycling is not to go in a bag.
yeah.
That's
Recycling is supposed to
loose
be
in a
loose,
can.
yeah.
So
Uh,
when
but-
it's windy, it blows,
Yeah.
you know,
But
go
we-
pick it up.
But you can put it into clear plastic.
Yeah, that's
bags
what I do.
too.
So I've got
Yeah.
I've got a can in my kitchen. That's the recycling can. Like we have the trash can and the recycling can. There's a garbage bag, like a
Mhm.
white kitchen bag.
Yep.
The stuff goes in there. That way, when I have to take it out, I just pull the drawstrings on the bag and toss it in the bin. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just made to prevent a few phone calls.
a lot of people should do that. And if
Right.
and if they want to complain
Right.
about their trash blowing all over the place, but they're not putting it
I
in the
mean,
bag, then
and think
that's
about it this way.
you're doing it to yourself.
Would you want to go in my trash can and pick through my trash can? I don't think so. I don't want to go in yours either. So
Yeah.
if it's in a bag, you know,
Yeah.
nobody needs to touch it.
Yeah, so bottom line is, I think no matter what garbage collection service you go with, there's always going to be problems. There's
Exactly.
always going to be complaints.
Exactly.
The real question is, do the issues that we have now warrant changing to a different service? And I think there's a couple of things that we need to know. We need to know if, I'll say the threat of penalty is enough to maybe remediate some behavior, if actual penalties are needed, and if we're able to get a similar service at a similar price point. If we put this out for RFP and everything comes back as double, sorry, everybody, we're sticking
Right.
with renewal in the next 2 years, because I personally don't want to see any of our
No,
cost of
bills.
that service go up
Yep.
twofold.
Yep.
So,
The guys are just out sick.
yeah,
That's it.
and we have,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate when things get missed. I know I've had times where they don't pick up. I call in eventually.
And they come
Usually
back.
they come back and get it. Stuff happens. There's a human element to everything. People go out sick, people have vacation. They're contractually obligated to pick things up, but at a certain point you have to say, okay, sometimes things happen.
Mhm.
It's when things happen too often
Yeah.
that you have to start raising the question or trying to enforce things against the contract. So,
What I don't think is why they don't require to put your recycling in a bag.
I don't know. I can't answer that one. I get the trash one, and maybe it's just the recycling is that it's easier for them to sort.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think
because
so.
then they don't have to open bags and things like that for as much. But
Mhm.
bottom line, we could probably talk about this one until we're blue in the
Yeah,
face, but
exactly. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact remains that if Stonecroft has an interest, bring it to the board. We will be happy to set up a follow-up meeting for anything that we can to help integrate you guys into the community as a whole.
To understand your trash and recycle costs, so we can compare it to what we're paying. so
Yeah.
we can come up with some advantage.
Yeah, before you
Yeah.
leave, I actually have it up here in front of me. I'll send this to you in an email.
Okay.
Okay, if we don't have any further on that, I'll move
No.
on to the next item on the agenda, which is the terms that are expiring in January 2022.
Want to check before we go on.
Yeah.
You might want to check with them to see if we add that much more customer
If it's
base.
going
Is it
to.
going
Well,
to affect
like I
the-
said,
It
the
would,
last.
it would have to
time,
be an addendum, but generally
But
it's,
this says,
the wording on that is,
although there are approximately 455 dwelling units, commercial and farm units within the township, not including Stonecroft Village residential development, all bidders are advised and cautioned that the township makes no warranty as to the number of dwelling units within the township now or at any time in the future.
yeah,
So
so
it
I
doesn't
think,
exclude Stonecroft.
yeah, so I think
So-
we're good there. It wouldn't have, we'd have to
Yeah.
probably do an addendum to let
Yeah.
them know
Yeah.
that we're increasing the scope. But in terms of the agreement, it shouldn't change the cost that we pay.
Right.
I'm just
Sure.
wondering if it might lower the cost because we're giving them more business.
But you're giving them more.
You're
work
giving
at the
them more
same
stuff that they
time,
have
so
to
it
dis-
kind of
we-
balances out.
They'd have to
Yeah.
look at it, but I think from a contractual standpoint, we'd be
Okay,
pretty watertight on being able to bring them in without having to renegotiate the whole thing. So, because I remember you read that off once before too on a
Yeah,
meeting
just 'cause
that,
I, like in my head, I was thinking, well, we gave them like X number of dwelling
Yeah.
units, like if we add.
yeah, this
does that
is,
make the price?
this is what we have, but it could be any
Right,
number is
right.
the way that's worded.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, terms expiring in January 2022. All have agreed to serve another term. These people will be appointed at the reorganizational meeting. The first one is Claire Zimmerman on the Planning Commission. Next is Nelson Troutman, a zoning hearing. Nancy Carrington, Vacancy Board Chairman, and John Sileski, Emergency Management Coordinator. Next item on the agenda is the rental inspection ordinance, which would allow access to rental properties every other year for safety related inspections. I'll be honest, just the past couple of weeks, I have not had time to do a full red line. I've read a couple of the ordinances. There's some good things in
Yeah.
each one of them.
I'm trying to do a mashup of them.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where the time consuming element is getting all the good points from some and making sure that we don't have unintended consequences of bad stuff lumped in. So that's on my list of things to do, hopefully when I have a little bit of time off around the holidays. Irene, you basically said you're in kind of the same boat, but
Right, I have everything on my desk. Things have been a little bit chaotic with work, so, yeah. And I actually work extra during the holidays,
yeah,
so I think, unfortunately, I think this is something we're gonna.
We'll
be
do it in the
revisiting
spring.
Next year.
yeah, we'll do it beginning part of
Yeah.
like Q1 of next year. There's
Yeah.
not a, we don't have a rush to do this.
No,
I'd rather see us take the time and do it right rather than throw something out there and then have to change it repeatedly.
I know, and everyone prefers a Word document, is that
Word,
correct?
yes, Word.
Okay,
Always Word because
Word.
they're easier to edit.
okay,
Okay, next, building maintenance. This is kind of on hiatus because we're trying to assess if it would be more cost effective to renovate the current space and be able to use like the first and second floor, or to run the numbers on building at a new location for a township building. If we're going to put that kind of money into it over a span of 20, 30 years, which makes more sense. So no news there. I know we have been reaching out for estimates for things like the drop ceiling, some electrical work, some HVAC work,
Yeah.
but we kind of put a hold on that based on
Yep.
possible other avenues to go down.
we're gonna, I'm gonna start revisiting that again after the first of the year and making sure that there is an appointment, time and date, and expectation of an estimate within a certain amount of time. This way I don't get the blow off that I've been getting, because it's just so frustrating.
I understand it. I ran
Yeah.
the same thing when I was
Okay.
doing the roof stuff.
As far as everyone is, what their preference is, if I get hold of 3 contractors and 3 estimates for complete renovation, and my concept is exterior windows, this room. Do we want them to take a look at the upstairs? Okay.
I want to use, if we're looking at actual
Yeah.
usability for building A versus building B,
Okay,
we have the second floor. It does us absolutely no favors.
Gotcha.
Right now, it's
Yeah.
not heated. It's not conditioned in any way, shape, or form in terms of humidity. There's a section of the floor that is upstairs. The ceiling is starting to fall down.
okay,
The windows are an absolute nightmare. They're equally as bad as the ones on the first floor, if not worse.
okay.
If we're going to stay in this space, we need to start using the space better.
Okay. Write me up a list, and I know in order for it to be ADA compliant, we're gonna have to put in an elevator.
I don't know that we're going to be able to
Right,
do
right.
that. Sort of
But I want,
sort of a
I
grant.
want the numbers
yeah.
so that so we can sit down and say, we've gotten 3 sets of contractors to give us numbers on building. So if you could just
Yep.
scribble down on a
Yeah.
piece of paper, this way I can walk through, I'll just print it up. This is what we're looking at. You may uncover other issues, let me know. And this is the estimates. This is a elevator estimate. So we could come back, have the discussion, and then we could decide what numbers we want to go with.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think
Yeah.
it's a great
Yeah.
idea to do that.
yeah,
I don't think there's any question this building's gonna cost more.
I think you're right. We have to do the exercise.
And the
and-
longer
Right.
that we wait, the
Right.
less likely it is that someone's gonna wanna buy this building because there's gonna be more problems.
right.
I think a couple of months, like
Yeah.
barring something
Yeah.
cataclysmic, we don't have anything because of what we did with the roof and some of the stuff that we did with the heating and stuff like that. We have less degradation on the first floor and things like that. We don't have water infiltrating from the roof down through the second floor into the first floor. Like that wall is pretty much completely dried out now. But I
It's
agree
just
with your
like-
point. The
just
longer we wait
the
on it,
Windows are the major thing.
yeah,
Right.
and the windows are really expensive.
Right.
So if we're
Right.
just going down that particular rabbit hole for a second, if we build somewhere else that would give us the opportunity to kind of tailor drive a space to having like a large meeting room, maybe something that is able to be opened up to even
Oh,
larger if we
yeah.
have like a large gathering, or since the fire hall isn't really accessible to rentals, that we'd have somewhere where people could rent for like
Oh,
wedding
yeah.
receptions and things like that, or
Absolutely.
use as an evacuation space in a
Exactly.
natural
We would
disaster
be-
or.
We could be evacuation point
Yeah.
when people, if there's major power loss throughout the community, it could be a collection point. I mean, there's so much more safety issues.
Or even just
yeah.
little things like letting the community association have a space where they'd be able to host like a craft show
Yeah.
or a spaghetti dinner or bingo or
Yeah.
something as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Like we don't really have
There's nothing.
the means to
here.
be able to
Yeah.
do that here. We just,
Yeah.
the space was retrofitted from the school originally, and it shows. There's pockets of space like this room in the AA room, or
Yeah.
what used to be the AA room. Fits an okay number of people, but you can't have a really big gathering. If we had a good turnout, we can seat maybe, I don't know, 30 people in here uncomfortably.
Mhm.
If we had a
Mhm.
situation where we had a large group, 100 people wanted to
You
come,
can't.
you can't. You just simply
You
can't
can't.
do it here. And that's why in the past we rented out the fire hall, but we don't really have that option anymore.
Yep.
So,
Well, another. would be if you want to relocate, you have to know what piece of land costs.
oh yeah,
Right, right.
absolutely. And that's
Right.
going to be a little bit of a wild card,
Yeah.
honestly speaking, but we can get kind of a
Right.
rough ballpark figure.
Yeah.
I know a couple people who are real estate agents. They could probably give me a rough cost on what, and I don't know, like 10 acres of undeveloped ground is actually going to set you back in the market currently.
Yeah, and even something as simple, we had an issue with salt storage.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just salt. We have a problem with salt storage.
yeah, we ran out of space.
Yep. So it's a very frustrating issue when people aren't calling me back, but I'm gonna just be a little bit more forceful and say, okay, I'm looking forward to meeting you on such
Yeah.
and such date and time. And can you please give me an estimate within 30 days?
Yeah, the other thing,
Yeah.
if we do this, it wouldn't stop us from doing this anyway, but if we're building a new location, we could connect up the playground project the community association is working on with that and say, as part of our building renovations, we're putting in a new playground. The community association is going to be taking the reins on it, but we're giving them $40,000 or $50,000 as
Yeah.
a donation to do it as part of that. And then we work hand in hand with them to make sure that we have like a baseball field and a walking track and whatever
Yeah.
else. It may facilitate faster action on that, because when they go to request that grant, they can say, look, we've already got a letter of commitment for $50,000 from the municipality. We've already got a letter of commitment for another 5,000 from a business. We've already got
Yep.
when you make that argument of I want money, one of the big things they look for in the plan, aside from having a plan, is if you have the financial resources to actually carry through, because it's a matching grant. It's not, they
Yeah.
just pay everything. So. Okay.
Crossing my fingers, I get the numbers and we're able to put these up and
Mhm.
have the comparison so that everyone sees what we're seeing and we could have a good discussion and get some stuff done. I'm hoping.
The end state goal is we want to
Yeah.
have a space that's
Yeah.
actually cost effective to keep
Yeah.
and useful, not just for us, but for everybody in the
Oh, my
community. It should
goodness,
be
yeah.
less of a township building, like we
More-
obviously
more
would
of
have
a
the
community
offices here.
center.
Exactly,
Yeah, and
more of a
that's-
community
That,
center.
that's more of my focus when I've been thinking about that. I'd like it to be the Marion Township Community Center so that we have have good access for the public.
Mhm.
So that the spaces can be used for the public and that would be ideal.
Yeah,
I mean,
even something as simple as like the alumni room and the historical society room are upstairs there.
No one sees it.
And no one can
No
use it
sees it.
because of where it is.
Yeah,
If we
I
were in a
love stuff
different space.
displayed on the walls and so that you can walk through and this is the history of Marion Township. Yeah,
And that could even be set
Yeah.
up if we had a different building, if we
Different
were
setup.
purpose building.
Yeah.
You can have that accessible from the outside without having to go into the rest of the building,
Yep.
that if somebody is willing to come in as a volunteer and open it up, they could without
Yep.
having to have the office open or
Yep.
the rest of the building.
Yep.
So there's a lot of interesting things that can be done. We just need to assess
Yep.
and look at costs.
that's my goal.
Okay, next up is the American Rescue Plan Act. I'll turn it over to Irene in a second, but just as a real quick synopsis, we did receive $100,848.79, which was transferred into the general money market accounts a couple of months ago. We are still awaiting the final US Treasury Department rules around how we have to use that money or can use that money. The date for the annual report was moved from October 31st, 2021 to April 30th, 2022.
So we should be receiving a similar amount. We received the initial amount in June. So I would anticipate that we would receive the same amount in June once again. At that time, I would also propose to place it in the money market account until we have a definitive use of those funds. I did take a look up on the PSAT's website. I don't know if you looked at that, Sue. If any of you guys looked at, there are now some links as to the reporting there still is not the final treasury rules that I could find. I just took a really brief look at it. So as usual, it's creating user ID, login, password, all this stuff. I'll try to do that this week with you so that we have everything written down. So, and again, we're just waiting for those final rules. We could use the money for the culverts in what we're hearing so far. I would propose that we use a small amount of that money also to update the technology. We have been so impacted with the technology, and we see how much upgrading our technology has made some things easier, but there's still some things that we need to fix. There's just glitches with that computer affecting Sue's computer.
Yeah.
We need more storage. We need like a fail safe. So when the power goes out, we need to make sure. So if I could ask you to like give us an estimate, this way we could use a small amount of that, because that is, I don't know if there was the need before COVID, but certainly COVID has shown us that technology has made a difference to how we conduct ourselves. Meeting Zoom, I mean, look at all this. This has made a difference, and we're still going to try to have this available so that there's more access for everyone in the community. We have the website up and running, although that was something that was before COVID, but just the impact of having things on the computers and seeing where, I don't want to say we're failing, but we're certainly behind.
We saw areas of opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And just the need to do that. So we could include that.
Okay.
And as with anything else, I would write it up more like almost like a grant proposal. So, these are our areas of need. This is the plan. This is the implementation. This is the cost. And this is how we were affected by COVID. And this is from start to finish, this is where we're at. So that's what I would want to see some of that used for. And it's not going to be a lot of money, I don't think.
No, we've been chipping away at it slowly. So like at the start of COVID, we kind of went into high gear. I got the Zoom stuff set up and the YouTube and like the Google Drive and everything like that, which I think was immensely helpful for keeping things moving.
Absolutely.
During that time. And as time goes on, things like these were on ludicrous sale around Black Friday. And they were about $350 a TV, not kind of like tax and shipping and things like that, but big screens that we can now, once we have them hung on the wall, if there's a map that we're talking about zoning, we can
we
put that
paint
up.
that wall before you hang?
Oh yeah, we can absolutely. So I got one of the things I brought the wood in the other day. I need to relocate that thermostat over towards the corner more. But once I move that and we take the flag down, we can absolutely
just get rid of that brown spot.
Do we have any paint?
I probably have some
Or
paint.
do
in my
we get rid
basement.
of it with elk?
I either have some paint I can bring in, or I was to say, or I can buy a gallon of paint. That's not a huge deal.
And a paintbrush.
You probably gonna need at least 2 gallons.
It's pretty porous. But we can absolutely paint that. And then the way this will go up is the 2 TVs will be side by side, centered in the room there. I think it's in a bag behind the TV where I got an adapter where both the TVs can plug in, and they'll plug into the computer, and the computer can address them independently.
Right,
So
but we're taking the keyboard from the office.
Oh no, I brought one in.
You brought
I brought one in.
But we need our own computer for this in this room.
Yeah.
Sue had mentioned we should have laptops available.
It's my opinion
Yeah.
that instead of having Irene bring her iPad and Jim bring his and Andy bring his,
I want
the
to have.
township should be supplying.
I want to have that, and it's
Yeah.
just it's a look at cost. So
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't brought anything forward because there's a pretty wide swing. I can pick up older like Surface 3s or Surface 4s for a couple $100 a piece, and I'm not advocating this. You can go the iPad route and get a like not brand new iPad for like $400-500. It all depends on what we want to do. I kind of like the ability of having an actual keyboard on
Yes.
things, but we don't necessarily need
Right.
the touch
Yeah.
screen. So
I mean, maybe we should even look at CoStar's. I have no idea how to navigate their website.
yeah, I
I
mean,
find it very
I
confusing.
can look and see if they
But
have any like
Maybe
technology
that's
on
an
there,
option.
Yeah.
but
Because there are a bunch of vendors on CoStar.
if you're buying new though, like a new iPad is about $1,000 for an
Yeah.
iPad Pro. If you get a new Surfaces are,
Well, it
probably
doesn't need
that's
to be the latest technology.
well, I'm just saying, when you
Yeah.
buy it on CoStar's,
Right.
it is new.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, not
So-
CoStar's. CoStar's has, like schools sell used equipment on
Okay.
CoStar's.
I might have overlooked it, but I didn't think they did. But either way, I agree with you that it works us bringing stuff in, but it would be a smoother, cleaner process, especially with like the solicitor and the engineer to just hand them a tablet and say,
It's
here it is.
Set up for
Right.
the
Yeah.
meeting.
Right.
It's there and it will be kept here and in the file room and locked up.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna rely on you
Yeah.
for your opinion because I know nothing about technology.
Yeah,
me
and
either.
sometime
Yeah.
over the next couple of weeks or something, especially when I have time, when I hang these, I'm actually gonna be relocating that on the wall
Okay.
directly behind it, and I gotta punch a couple of holes. Thankfully, this isn't actually cinder block. This is just like plaster
Okay.
over stud. It's an interior wall. So I'm able to punch holes a lot easier than if I had to get like a hammer drill and masonry bits and stuff out.
Okay.
So
Let me know when you guys are gonna do something, if you're gonna paint first,
Yeah.
whatever. I have some warm bodies that need something to do with themselves.
it'll
so-
probably be the week after Christmas, because
Okay.
I took time off of work. I'm gonna avoid like the 26th because that's my birthday.
Absolutely.
But that following week would be an ideal time to do some punching holes and moving cables and
let me
things
know.
like that. So
Let me know, we will come down, pretty capable of painting and
yeah, so I know
Yeah.
you have preemptively
handing
volunteered,
things
so
off and get it done.
yeah, more the merrier.
Yeah,
Probably like white, I would say. Like I don't
gonna
think we
make
have to
everything
try to
else
match the
dingy.
green, but I would just we get some rollers on a
Yeah.
stick and just
I don't
paint the
think we
whole
should use
wall white.
white.
I don't
Peter.
think you're gonna
Okay.
match this green.
No, that's what I'm saying. We're not ever gonna match that color
This green is
green.
about 25 years
So
old,
like
not more.
white or an off-white, a
Off-white,
beige, like
off-white.
I'm not looking for like copy paper white, but
Yeah.
just, just a decent neutral color.
The color of the shade, so it'll match.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I think that's kind of like an
Yeah.
almond color, but
Yeah.
I think we should make it like hot pink or something.
yeah, neon, safety pink, safety yellow.
Glow in the dark.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway,
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so just something else to keep in mind for the ARP funds and, at some point, again, if we decide to build a new facility, those funds could be used, although I'm thinking more so, we're probably gonna go the route of the culverts.
at
because-
least for part of it.
Yeah, for part of it, it's just, we could use the funds towards the playground, we could use the funds, there's so much we can do with it. I'm just so cautious, this is taxpayer money, this is something that was kind of like, oh, here you have a present, in a way, I know it's in response to COVID, but something
It's
none of us
unanticipated income.
Yeah, and I just want to be so careful with it,
Yeah.
I want to be able to say, okay, we thought about this, we discussed this. I want to have that foresight, so in like a decade from now, no one's coming back and saying, why did you do that?
Mhm.
I want to be able to make sure the funds are used carefully.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, next is the credit card policy. I know you had been working on
Yeah,
that. The
yeah.
initial draft looked good.
Yeah, if anyone wants to tweak it, there's a couple of things in there that we were talking
Had a
about.
chance to look.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. That's
So-
okay. It's boring.
One of the things
Yeah.
that I started working on, and I plan on snapping your credit card
Mhm.
policy into, is I've started writing up like a handbook.
That's a
Of
good
That's
things.
something
idea.
that I
I-
had taken a look at too.
I'm most of the way
Yeah.
there. So when I have
Excellent.
that done, I'll circulate it for everybody to review, but it's things like the social media policy.
yep.
Reporting hours, if you happen to, like, because I know we don't have this right now, but if you actually had a complaint or a grievance against somebody, how to properly file that in a form in which to do it. Trying to get all of that in place. It's not a short document. It's not anywhere near as long as like that traffic study, but the credit card policy is one of the things that's in there.
Yep.
I've been working on that, time permitting, and the road procedures. We met 2 weekends ago as a road crew to discuss. I have, if you can make heads or tails of my sticky notes there, but I left notes to myself about turnarounds and routes and things like that. And I'm writing that up as a kind of bullet pointed thing and a map, so that if you're in the big truck, this is generally the circuit that you should take if you're going out. If you're in the John Deere tractor with the plow on it, this is the route that you take. If you're in the small truck, this is the route that you take. If you're in the grader, this is the route that you take. During snow emergencies, this is what you have to do that's different from standard. If you have a situation where you have to invoke the farmers, what the kind of the call tree, the chain of command is on that, and that is going to shift slightly into next year with Butch being the roadmaster. But how we go through those processes so that it's routine every single time. Granted, first couple of years of having that in place, there's probably going to be some things that we have to adjust or tweak, where somebody calls and complains about something, and we go, oh, we hadn't really considered that. So it's going to be an organic document for a bit, but it will help to paint the picture of, at any one given time, who's on the road crew, I'm getting a table together of person's name, cell phone number, if they're kind of emergency only, or if they're regular availability, if they have a CDL or not, if they're able to use the grader, if, you know, this kind of check mark so that you can see like, okay, we have a huge snowfall and we have somebody on this, the big truck and the little truck, but we need somebody for the grader. Okay, we have these two people we can call. That's the goal.
I think also with having a handbook, it just creates a reasonable expectation of what your behavior is. It's standardized. It's not because you're here or you're here. It's just, this is what this job is and this is what's expected of your behavior, just like any other job. And I think that's long overdue. Have you looked at other townships?
I have.
So that's this, we're kind of looking at the same thing. So
The one that I found that I liked the most, because I looked at, I want to say 4 or 5, was actually Hemlock Township in PA.
Okay.
That is the one that I've been using kind of as the basis. They have some things in there about full-time work that I'm just getting rid of, or I might actually move it to an appendix and just keep it in case we ever have a full-time person. But any of the things that we don't need, I've been dropping out, and the other stuff I've been rewording so that it's directly applicable to us. But they have a lot of good stuff in there in terms of the actual sections, in terms about just, you know, the whole severability of the agreement, the attestation that like when you get hired on that you see this and you sign this paper and you give it to Sue, so we put it in the filing cabinet, all that sort of stuff, so that it checks all the required boxes and covers all the things that we need to cover.
and just like everything else, once that's finalized and complete, everyone could have a electronic copy or it could print it out. And
Both.
just, right. And just like I'm keeping kind of, someone's looking for you. Just like I'm keeping a list of procedures, office procedures in those books. It's there, it's available. You can't say you never had access to it. Here it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's the goal. By the time we're done with everything should be documented and routine at any one given time. And we're not there yet, just for the sake of clarity, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. In the same way that we get a financial audit, somebody could come in and audit procedures, say, okay, how do you do payroll? How do you do the road stuff? How do you do the, like, I got to write up a how-to on like how to post the stuff to the YouTube site. You know, that sort of stuff. How do you do this? And you can say, here it is.
Right, so the jobs are what the jobs are, and hate to, you know,
It's
the person fills
less about
in,
the people, more
right,
about the job.
more about
Yeah.
the job.
Yep.
And I think we've all seen that that's been an issue in this area for some time. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing with everything on the computer, so that it's not particular to me, that anyone can step, okay, I don't know how to do this. Oh, here's the explanation.
A good example is if Dan had to come in and do something, that way Dan's not deer in the headlights for,
Yeah,
for
no.
something treasurer
Yeah,
related.
there's a bunch of new stuff in it, and every time I do something new, I write it up and put it in that book.
Yeah. Best thing
Yeah.
to do is when Dan comes in, not to put Dan on the hot seat,
Yeah.
but have Dan look at it and try it based on the documentation, because there's a lot of things that when you're writing material, you might overlook. And when Dan looks at this, he's like, I don't understand this, or, you know, I think maybe there's a step missing or
Yep.
whatever. Having a critical, uninformed set of eyes on that is oftentimes a wonderful fact check on that sort of thing.
Excellent.
Project for you, both for Christmas holidays.
I'm scared now, Dan.
Reprogram the alarm system and get keys for those people who need them.
I did, like, I added a bunch of codes, and actually that was one of the things that I said this morning. We added a bunch of people to the road crew. My afternoon, one of the things is going to be getting keys to the rear doors cut for them, and I'm gonna try some way. I got to see if my little engraving pen works. I'm gonna try and number the keys so that I know who has what key, and put the alarm codes in before I leave. Because once we figured out the
key number to the alarm code.
That's-
that will tell you
yeah.
which person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the alarm code itself is associated to a person. So I want to make sure that we have code, whatever is, let's say code 12 is Butch. Butch has key number 1. That's where I'm looking to get on that. And if there's a situation where we have to add it, it's pretty straightforward. After we figured out which code we're supposed to use as the master, because what was written down there was not right. Turns out it was a different code that was in the manual. Once we figured that out, it's actually pretty easy. But the problem,
You did 3 months to complete it.
yeah, it took a bit, because like, in all honesty, it says like you should use, let's say 1, 2, 3 as your default code. So I'd go in and I'd do that and it would do some things, but not others. So I'm sitting there going like, I don't understand why it's not letting me enter codes. And just through the course of trial and error, we found out that it's at some point, somebody changed the actual like admin code to this other thing that was written in a margin. So we got that sorted out, and that's something that as documentation goes, we'll also be updating that too. That way the next person, whether it's Irene or Jim or whoever, they don't have to go through that same trial and error exercise to be able to add people to the alarm system. So.
Have you also let all the the snow removal people know that they have a chief now?
Yeah.
One of the complaints
So
last year was there was way too many Indians.
I
Well, he's
mentioned
not technically.
he's not technically, but I did mention that I want Butch to kind of be running center stage on that. And that when the snow actually flies, I will work with Butch to make sure everybody gets scrambled and to make sure that they understand that obviously if I call them, they need to do it. But Butch is kind of the head honcho when it comes to roads. If Butch says, hey, Kevin, I need you out on the big truck, the expectation is unless you have something, because we're all people. You might say like, I'm working, I really can't, I'm sorry. Other than that, it's okay. I'll go in and I'll get on the big truck and I'll start plowing. Like that's, you shouldn't say like, no, you're Butch, I'm not going to listen to you. So.
Yeah, I want to keep it as a team.
Oh yeah. We should all be friends here. We're all working towards the same end goal, but we want to make sure that they understand the kind of the chain of command.
And
We're
that's-
adults
That's why
and
you're
we
the
can
right man for this
communicate.
job,
Yeah.
because you're not confrontational. I mean, We're not gonna put somebody in there. that's- Right.
Yeah.
We're as a team.
But I just want everybody to know that, don't go do something
Yeah.
like was happening last year. Like the complaint was there was too many Indians and
Yeah.
no chief. So
Yeah.
all they need to do is just let you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing this. Okay, great. So you don't have somebody else doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think last year there were complications. That whole thing with the truck
That whole
breaking.
thing was just
Oh.
a mess.
Yeah, that was just
That just created so many problems.
that was just one thing after another, because then like we had people running, like I think you were out for like 10 or 12 hours at one point, because like we didn't have anybody that could come in, and like we had people out weird hours in the night, and it's just there was
I slept in the time.
you did. But we're going into this year having known that like there's some things that were on the truck that we should address, whereas last year, like one of the things was the water pump. You never know the water pump's going until it dies.
Mhm.
But
And then
we've
that
done,
just went down the rabbit
Yeah.
hole of this
Yeah.
was wrong, and then that was wrong, and then that was
Yeah.
wrong, and then that was wrong.
yeah, that it was kind of a domino of things, but we've had the truck looked at going into the winter season. We've put new tires on it. We've done basic maintenance on it. So barring something that you can't really foresee, I think we're in better spaces now than we were last year, just in general preparedness.
Do we need any additional equipment?
No, I don't think we we have everything we need equipment wise.
If I don't know workers to drive trucks, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the loader, not that necessarily want to use it for that, because we'll use it for salt, but the backhoe that we just got can also be used in a pinch for moving snow if we need to too.
Well, Alex here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next is the Western Berks Joint Ordinance Amendments. A meeting was held Tuesday, November 30th in Robizonia to adopt the Heidelberg, North Heidelberg and Robizonia amendments. One of the amendments did not pass. They have to re-vote on it.
Yeah, I didn't understand that whole.
They had a
thing.
tie vote.
Oh.
2 out of 3 people showed up for, I believe, North Heidelberg it was. And they were deadlocked because the third person wasn't there. They're re-voting at, I believe it's this Thursday is their meeting.
Well, there was a meeting this past
Oh,
Thursday.
yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
I
That,
guess that was a vote. But Lisa told me that now there has to be another hearing.
from what Andy was saying, no. From what Andy was saying is they just have to re-vote on it, and because everybody else, it carried unanimous, other than that, it's still okay.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
the meeting that Jim and I were at was actually a non-voting meeting, and it was about potential changes around solar panels
That was
and solar
Thursday
farms.
night,
And
this
that
past
was this past Thursday. North Heidelberg, I can't remember if it was, I think it's this Thursday, it's either this Tuesday or this Thursday.
So they have to
Um,
vote at their
They have to vote
regular
at their regular,
township meeting.
yes.
And then it doesn't need to go back to joint zoning again?
From the way it was explained, no.
Okay, okay.
If we have to have another meeting, we have to have another meeting, but the explanation was that because it's a tie and it's not like it was unanimous no across the board, it's kind of, I'd say, on hiatus. Everybody else was okay with it with that exception. And if they revote and it passes, then they just say that, the third absent person voted this way and it carried, or,
I didn't understand that. What was?
yeah,
going
it's
on.
it's the first time that that's happened in more than 20 years.
Okay,
I think they said it was about 20 years, where it's literally the first time that that's happened. And we had some discussion around, are there things that need to be changed in the bylaws for the joint planning commission, joint zoning, so that we don't have that. If you're a municipality that has a 3-member board, all 3 members must be present. If you're a township that has 5 people on, you must have 3 as a minimum. If you're a borough that has 7 people on, you must have 5 present so that you don't have a tie situation. So there's probably going to be some changes because of that, but it's kind of a fluke and oddity that happened. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you guys for coming.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Next item on the agenda is the payment of engineer and attorney fees. This is for things like the review of stormwater plans. Currently, we are sending a letter and an invoice out. Second and third invoices include a 6% increase. These are sent certified with a return receipt by mail. Kozlov Stout will be helping us beef up these letters and help us with collections. I know we've been sending some letters out and we've been getting pretty good responses back so far. We can go back 3 years worth of uncollected items, and we can hold the permit if bills are not paid. We got confirmation on that. So
Just a little update on that. So I did speak to Alicia at Kozlov Stout, and she said, yes, we'll help you beef up the letters. My question for you guys is, I have basically on hold the letter that we have. There's 2 or 3 people that I can send a third letter to, but held off on doing it because I was anticipating some response from Alicia. I'm now going into, like, it should have been November 20th was the date. Now we're just almost upon December 20th. Do you want me to continue to send out our third letter in hope of a response, certified return receipt?
yeah,
Or do you want me to wait for Alicia?
Yeah.
Alicia has off this coming week. so
yeah, I would
Yeah.
send the
So
letter.
I'll send the third letter, return receipt, and we'll see what response we get or don't get. And we'll see what plan that Kozlov Stout has for us. So just as another kind of segue on that, we did send the large packet out to Landmark.
Stone Group.
Stone Group, yeah, excuse me, Stone Group, which would be a little over $25,000. So
That's most of the culvert.
they did pay our prior requests. So $25,000, I'm praying we see a check for that. My question for you is the rest of the packet, and too bad Dan left. The rest of the packet has information there to private residences.
Okay.
Do you want me to continue to do this and see what we could get out of folks?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we need to be
Okay.
uniform with
Okay.
this. We don't
Yeah.
want to be, whether it's a perception or not, we don't want to be targeting specific groups or people.
right. It's
So-
just, it's across the board.
Blanket,
So that's what I'm gonna be working on. Unfortunately, because it's the end of the year, some of the materials may be expired. So, they were kind enough to provide us something within the past 3 years. We're going to 2022, unfortunately. So I may have missed some materials, but I'm gonna do my best to get it out before the end of the year.
the one thing I would say is if we send the letter,
Yep.
if we're allowed for 3 years, I think that date of when we send the letter is that consideration for the 3 years. So like when we send the letter out, just because you ignore it for 3 years doesn't mean you don't have to pay
Right,
anymore.
right. But I'm saying,
So-
like, if it was something at the tail end, at the beginning of 2018,
Yeah,
I will include it with the packet and hope for the best. It's just a lot of sifting through engineering information on the bills and trying to determine. So I'm anticipating I'm gonna be on the phone with McCarthy's group saying, because his bills are a little bit confusing.
yeah,
They were kind enough to give me a summary of all of Stone Group's information. So that was easy. I sent them the title page with all the listed invoices and send them copies of invoices. Sifting through the other one involves me, we have to black out information on the page because there's multiple people on certain pages, so.
There's multiple properties.
Right,
on-
it's gonna
on
be a little bit
bill.
more time consuming,
So-
so,
I mean, she has a highlighted, but it's just a
Right.
matter of.
I have, we had. a little
Blocking out the other
disruption.
ones.
Yeah, we have to
Right.
redact the other ones.
Yeah, at my full-time job, so I may be pulled into work my full-time job, but I dedicated Tuesday to coming down to resolving most of this, so I'm hoping that I could get out more. Do you guys have a preference that I send this out certified, even though it's an initial letter, simply because of the volume and the amount? I would prefer it this
I
way.
don't- I don't have any objections to
Yeah,
sending it
I know
certified.
it's a little bit more of a cost, but at the same time, for these individuals, are we gonna follow the 1, 2, 3 policy, or do we want to just send them this one notification? Because it is older.
Do the 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
I'd,
Okay.
again, just to be
Yeah.
consistent, I'd prefer to do the 1, 2, 3. And if it's a situation where we send our third letter rather than like Kozlov's out sending it.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happens is we give people a little extra time.
Okay,
Like that's,
yeah, because I think Jim said it's considerable sum of money that we're gonna be,
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to recover.
yeah. It's sad now that, actually Rick helped me again with stuff on the computer. I'm able to track this moving forward. It's cumbersome. There's a lot more work involved in this, Peter, than you said to me. But at the same time, now that I've kind of got this, kind of system going on, well, I shouldn't say that, it's what's available in QuickBooks and Sue's diligence about clipping things together in the invoice file. I'm able to, process it and get a report over who owes us what. There's a physical copy that's in the invoice folder, so that there's just, if someone would look at it, you would know what is or isn't been paid. And then there's the computer reminder as well. So there's like almost like a backup system.
We got a check and balance kind of on it.
Yeah. So that's,
Do we have any guesstimate for how much money we lost?
well,
Uncollected, it's a lot.
yeah, I think Jim said 100,000.
How did that slip through the cracks?
You didn't know. that you could
Because
do
the
it.
former treasurer didn't write anything down, so then the next treasurer coming in had no idea we were supposed to be collecting
Yeah,
this money.
and we had a couple of treasurers like that.
You
So-
can't go after their bonds.
No, probably not, because they're no longer in
Yeah.
Yeah,
position, and
Yeah.
When we get that money, can we use it on the road?
oh,
you can
yeah,
use it
oh,
for
yeah.
whatever.
It's our
Like
money.
specifically the one from Stone
Group.
Stone Group. If we get that, that's half of the culvert. And I don't think there's any objection from
No, not
anybody
at
on the
all.
board about
Not
using
at
it for that. So yeah, that's money that comes back into the budget.
That's where all our money
Yeah,
costs.
yeah.
So
So,
that's money to improve the playground.
right,
Yeah, I mean, that's money
a lot
for
of money.
literally,
It's unfortunate that
things.
there's thousands of dollars that were lost through this whole process.
yep. And so moving forward, again, the process is standardized. So there's certain clicks on the computer you have to make. You generate an invoice. You create a copy of the invoice we received from the engineer or the attorney. You group it together, you mail it out. That's, it's not that complicated, it's just cumbersome. And sifting through the information. God bless Sue. Sue knows every address in town, I swear. So I said, "Go, what's
Joys of
this?"
living here my whole
Yeah,
life.
I'm like, where does this person live? She's like, oh.
Oh, I can tell you where that person lives.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would do without her.
I talked to Sue, she knows where.
I'm
She
gonna
knows
drive you over
everything.
there.
Thank you, Father.
Yeah, she knows everything. So this,
See, we used to drive around and my dad would say, when it was snowing, my dad would say, come on, we're getting in the car, we're gonna see if we can get lost or see if we can get stuck,
yeah,
So I know where everything was,
Yeah.
okay, so this is a good segue. One of the other things that we need to do beginning part of next year is the saldo, the fees for that and the stormwater management, the ordinance and the fees. This is another one where we're working off a very outdated fee schedule. So we are collecting some fees, but we're not collecting maybe the appropriate amount. And we may not be collecting for all the things that we should be collecting. So we're essentially taking a loss on private projects because not everything that should be reimbursed for to kind of pass through from homeowner to McCarthy Engineering or
Well, just for
wherever.
instance, like if McCarthy Engineering does an inspection,
Mhm.
I don't think the fees that are in the
It doesn't cover the entirety of it.
saldo or,
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
this is, doesn't cover
Mhm.
that, so.
And you have the Excel spreadsheet, so you're able to,
Yeah, that's another thing that's on my list of things to do, because
Okay.
that's a whole lot of,
it is,
it's a
it's a whole lot of
stuff.
data. Yeah,
We got to go through and we got to find what's applicable for us, what isn't, what needs to be updated, what we have versus what's current.
Mhm.
Obviously speaking, because we got that this past year, it might not be a bad idea to just take whatever the number was there and tack an extra 5% onto it.
Mhm.
But that's one of the things that I want to do during the first quarter of next year. We get through the end of the year stuff with the finishing stuff out, getting ready for audits, doing the reorgs and
Oh,
stuff like
that's
that. And
something.
then
we're ready
I know
for
we're good for
audit.
the audit, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying there's a
yeah.
ton of stuff that happens in December and the beginning of
December
January.
and January are horrible.
Yeah,
months.
so we get out of the woods with those, and then we can
Mhm.
turn our attention to, okay,
Yeah.
rental inspection, okay, fee schedules, okay.
Yeah, there's so much reporting to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that we get out of the thick of that and then start looking at some of the
And you don't
improvement
drink
items.
too, right?
What?
You don't drink
I
alcohol?
do.
You do?
I told you I do.
That's what you tell me
Are
what
you
you
kidding?
need. What do you need?
There was a still that blew up in the house in the Weber family.
All right,
Uh.
you're making this easier for me. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with that,
Scotch. Okay.
with that
On the
said, really no news on the Saldo stormwater management ordinance fees, things like that. We're gonna do that first quarter of next year. And as we discussed before, any of the fee schedules that we have, we just need to be in the routine of doing that at least once a year, of reviewing that and seeing if changes are made. We just need to get into that habit going forward. Next item on the agenda is the Main Street traffic study. As Butch pointed out, they were actually out this past week doing the traffic study. So hopefully we'll see something across the email box about that. And hopefully it'll be some good news on if we're able to put a stop sign in at one or more of those intersections, at which point we don't have to put a stop sign in, but I'm hoping we'll have choices.
Oh, yeah.
Next is the 2022 fee schedule for professional services. We have received the fee schedules for Burks and Virotech, McCarthy Engineering, and Kozlov Stout.
We also got, and then Keith Mooney sent his.
Keith
so-
Mooney's fees will stay the same as they were in
Mhm.
2022. We are, however, still waiting for craft codes. We will have to adopt these fees by resolution at the January 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting. We have received several donation requests. We received a request from Helping Harvest, from Crime Alert Berks County, and from the Wilmsdorf Community Library. If memory serves me, in this past year, we donated to,
The next one, the next time.
oh, okay,
Okay.
thank you. I was
I
gonna say,
could
I
say-
thought we donated to all of those this
We
past year.
did.
So,
The only thing that there was a hiccup was for the Center for Excellence in Local Government at
Mhm.
Albright. I could not find anything online.
Okay.
And they did not send us anything hard copy. So that was the only one that did not receive an actual donation from us.
okay,
The other,
So we could always call Andrea or email
Yeah.
Andrea.
Yeah.
and see where we send it. or-
but I think it might have been due to a credit card issue. I don't know. I looked everywhere and I could not figure out how to send anything to them.
Mm.
I did have another request.
okay,
This request was to make a donation to the Wilmsdorf Fire Department. Because during the flooding that we had at people's residences, they were actually the ones that did the most of the pumping. Marion did not do as much. And they took the brunt of it, so there was a request to make a donation to the Wilmsdorf Fire Department. Whether we want to do 100, 150, or 200, that's entirely up to you guys. I'll let you guys mull that over and think about it. If we want to reduce something to someone else, so
What's budgeted?
I think we budgeted a total of 1,500.
I'm adding it up now. 1,050. Yeah, it's 1,500.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have any objections to donating to the Wilmsdorf Fire Department. I know we don't generally make an outright donation to
Yeah.
like Marion, but we also, like, they get the
Oh, yeah.
foreign
They get a
fire
huge
tax, they get the
benefit,
13 or
so-
14,000 from that.
So I don't know.
And we also cover their insurance,
Right.
which is not wildly inexpensive either.
Do we want to eliminate the Berks County Library and give BCCD 650? And we can give Wilmsdorf Fire Department 150? I mean, it's up to you guys. Honestly, would much rather continue to have the Wilmsdorf Library
Yeah,
receive the 200 because they serve this community,
yeah.
100%.
What are your thoughts on Berks County Library, $50, Berks County Conservation District, $650, and Wilmsdorf Fire Department, like $100?
I'm good with that.
Just as a, we can discuss
Right.
more at the
Right.
Thursday night meeting,
Yeah,
but
you can
Something's always
prove
better
it.
than nothing.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
what did you say?
I'm thinking we reduce the Berks County Conservation District to 650.
Okay.
Not to underscore all the nice things that they do and all
Yeah.
the lovely help that they've given us for roads over the years, but just so that we still fit within that $1,500 budget item. Berks County Library to $50, and then Wilmsdorf Fire Department, $100.
and it's still kind of, and I need to get John at a meeting or have him make a video clip, still revisiting that concept of making those pump out kits
Mhm.
so that people can have something available, the whole sign out, sign in process, et cetera. So,
With just how busy
Yeah.
December is going to be, let's
Oh,
skip
yeah,
December,
yeah.
but like January, you can absolutely come to a
Yeah.
meeting and kind of give us the pitch, the song and dance. It hopefully the TVs will be up by then. So if he has, like, if he wants to put it in like a Word doc or PowerPoint or something,
Yep.
like, here's the stuff that's in the kit.
Yep.
And then give us a run through on that. I can put it up on the,
yep,
I can
yep,
put it up on the screens.
that's gonna be really nice. Again,
Um,
another plus for all of us.
Yeah. Okay, next item is professional services solicitation letters. We received a letter from MGS Insurance for workman's comp for the township and for the Marion Volunteer Fire Company. We also received a letter from Acela Architects and Engineers for the engineering position. This is pretty standard fare. We get these every
We
year.
get these every year.
Every year.
Check out the Acela letter.
Is it the same letter as last year?
No, they
No.
actually have a building that they,
Oh,
I guess,
Okay.
engineered or whatever, architect or whatever.
okay.
Is that something?
Just
is
check it
that-
out.
Is that a service that McCarthy
I don't think it
provides?
gives
Yeah, that would be the engineer. That would be,
So we could tap into them and say, hey, listen, this is what we're thinking about, but we have to pay the architect fees, et cetera, et cetera. This is something that if we do a new building, we're gonna have to do anyway. But for now, what I'd also like to do is, I'm just gonna bring in some plain old construction paper. I'd like everyone to scribble on a piece of paper what their ideas, concepts would be for a new building.
yeah,
So once we can get an idea, and it doesn't have to be a scale or anything like that. We can include our measurements, because for me, I have to physically walk the distance to know
Mm.
what it feels like. Then we can take those concepts and go to a pole building place. We could go to an engineering firm. We could go down the road to Owl Creek. We could get different estimates on different styles of building so that we know where we're at.
yeah. What I would suggest in addition to that exercise, or maybe right before you start doing that, is just go line by line. These are the things that we want. We want to have a large meeting room. We want to have a small meeting room. We
Right.
want to have
Right.
office space that is accessible
So I
3
need-
different ways.
Right, I need
you know.
everyone to write down their concept,
Yeah.
because the one builder that I did speak to said, I need an architect's drawing or I need a
Mhm.
rough draft.
Yeah.
Everyone needs that.
There's probably, the architects have built other township buildings too,
Right.
so they may
Yeah.
already have a.
Right.
Well, see,
drawings.
the
Right,
thing,
but
the
there's
thing
a
about
Here's what
that,
he would suggest.
So there's a
especially
fee
if you-
associated
Yeah.
with it,
yeah, if you go to a lot of
Yeah.
the other buildings, like Robizonia,
Yeah.
for example, is wildly different than
Right,
any of the other places. They're very, very different. And it's because I think a lot of times they went into it, like Robizonia is a prime example. They have a very small meeting room. Like it's this size or smaller. We're not looking for the same thing that they may have been looking for when they built that.
Yep.
So we're gonna need to map out what we want in order to be able to, I mean, we could throw it into like Google SketchUp briefly.
Yeah.
It's not exactly an architect's drawing, but if you went to a pole building place, they may say, yeah, we'd be able to do this, or like, no, this is way too big. The spans
Right.
just wouldn't work.
Another thing to consider is, a big room, have a curtain in the middle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's not even just like a curtain. They actually make dividers. Like
Yeah.
we have some conference rooms at work that's
Right.
split in half. And I think that's, if you're gonna spend the money, that's the best way to do it. Because then you can have
Right.
2 small meeting rooms, or you can open it up and you can have
Yeah.
like a craft show or a wedding
Right.
reception or something like that.
Well, I
But
know
it's-
the Catholic Church in Rabizonia, their sanctuary
Mhm.
can be divided.
Yeah.
But then on a, when they have their service, then they
They
open it up.
Right.
Yeah.
right,
There's actually a stage. I mean, it looks almost like an auditorium.
Yeah.
I think.
right,
Flat, not slanted.
Yeah.
There's a stage, and that's where they have their altar too.
Yeah.
but it's just is like this big room and then they close it off.
Right.
for-
Yeah, and that's, if we're going to be
meetings
talking
or
about building, I think that's what we should do, because it lets you have better use of the space.
Mhm.
Right.
Exactly.
You also, from like an HVAC standpoint, you could set up zones on it too, so that
Right.
you're not like
Like
heating the whole.
there's so much to consider. That's why, I want just a rough concept of what we think would work well. Then having it brought over to an architect or a builder and say, hey, what can you do with this concept? Can you give us a realistic idea over what our needs and wants are, et cetera, And so, again, having that discussion at a meeting and saying, this is build cost, this is repair
Renovation
cost.
cost.
And unfortunately, I think it's gonna be just about the same, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
I think over a 20 or 30 year span, we're actually
Oh,
probably going to be
God,
more
yeah.
expensive here
Yep.
than.
Yep.
So anyway, next item on the agenda is the building security.
Yeah.
Tri-County Security was out to evaluate a
Oh, they
buzz-in
came?
system
Okay.
where the door could be locked and the secretary could buzz whoever was at the door in. He also suggested putting a camera outside. We're still waiting for a quote on that.
So I have to explain this. I don't know if you're aware of it, Jim or Peter. I apologize. We're concerned about safety. So Sue and I were sitting in here and I said, I'm just gonna call Tri-County, and I apologize if I
No.
acted inappropriately, just to get a quote. We and they weren't quite sure if they could, when the gentleman I spoke to wasn't quite sure if he could do it. Did the
He
sun come out?
could, yeah,
He
the
could.
sun came out
Okay.
and, I initially said to him, well, I can look out the window and see who's here.
No, it'd be safe.
And he
with the camera.
said, well, a camera would be good as
Yeah.
documentation.
Yeah, yeah. So again, Tri-County is a group that currently does the security system, so that's why I just put a phone call into them. Again, like, there's deficiencies in this building. Safety is one of them. Sue has if she's behind that desk and there's someone that's violent and wants to
I
enter
can't
that
get
building,
out.
Yeah.
there's
Cannot get
nothing,
out.
there's no recourse for her.
Yep.
So it just, again, it just troubles me, the limitations and restrictions on this building. So just as a safety measure, that's something that I think we need to look at if it's a reasonable cost. Would you guys like me to call other agencies then, just to get the 3 quotes?
I mean, we already have,
And
we're already doing business with
Yeah.
Tri-County. So I mean, if it's a high cost, then yeah, but if it's under the amount that
I
we need to
can't
get
imagine it
quotes
will
for,
be, yeah.
then just do it.
Okay,
He thought he could get me the quote by today. Obviously, we didn't get it.
I mean,
And I said, if you can get it by Thursday, that would be great.
Yeah.
If you
Good.
can't, you can't. But he seemed to think it wouldn't be that much of an issue. His main concern was like, how do I get the wiring where it needs to go?
yeah,
yeah.
And he,
Conduit.
I told him there's a crawl space and,
yeah,
And we
you
don't
know,
care if it's outside anymore.
yeah, I
We
mean,
just
he
don't.
seemed to work it out.
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
It just was one of those things, like, it was that knee-jerk kind of a reflex, like, we need to look into this
Well,
and,
that was, I think
Yeah.
that was actually what kicked off the conversation about new building to begin with, was
Yeah,
when we were doing
security.
the whole thing with
Right,
COVID.
yeah,
It's like,
right.
if somebody actually comes in,
Right.
we're not in a situation where like poor Sue can't even like duck for cover because
Like,
Yeah.
there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Well, like even, even if that person wears a mask and I wear a mask for COVID,
yeah,
we're still
right.
Yeah,
too close.
Right.
Yeah.
And a new building concept, people could enter the building.
we'd have a
and-
vestibule where you'd have the
Right,
doctor's
and
office
there would
style
be
thing.
an office space for Sue, where again, there's another layer of protection. There's a window. And she could either open it or not open it. You could even have one of those drawers where people could pass things
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
And so that it's safety for her.
Mhm.
And so that we might not have had the shutdown that we did had there been those safety measures in place. So again, just forward thinking.
Right.
So,
And then on the topic of safety, so the can light that's under the porch out there is not very bright. Can that be replaced? Can I call somebody, an electrician, to replace that with an LED, maybe dusk to dawn sort of something or other?
We might not have to replace it. And that's what I was trying to say in the email, is if it's the can light, the
Well,
fixture.
I personally, I mean, this is your decision,
Yeah.
but I personally would like it go on when it's dark and off when it's light. Because I come in for meetings in the evening.
Yeah.
And even though there's a dusk to dawn light at that corner.
It's still dark over here.
It's still dark. There's
Yeah.
still a stairway
Yeah.
going into the basement, like the other night.
Yeah.
When I came in for planning commission or zoning hearing, I was a little freaked out by that.
Okay.
Just because it's dark down there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the light above the door is not very bright. Butch took the covering off and washed it,
Yeah,
but it's just what it's made out of. It
yeah,
doesn't
we can,
emit enough
that's
light.
easy enough. I can,
So that can just.
I can
be
just- I can take that
replaced
off
with Something LED.
yeah, I'll just go to like Lowe's or something like that, pick
And
one up for
then-
the inside.
Or like the other thing is, both of the can light in the porch and the light above the door is on a switch.
Yeah,
Like I can turn that switch on when I leave. So it's on until I come in the next morning.
yeah.
Because the LEDs wouldn't take as much.
Yeah, the
electricity.
LEDs use basically nothing. The other thing we could do if they're both on a switch is we can just put a timer switch in.
Oh, right, you do too.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
really rudimentary.
That's what we had over at our church.
Yeah, and so
That would
rather than
work
getting
too.
something that's got on a sensor, because like
Yeah.
the sensors are good, but there's a lot of times where if it's cloudy, it'll turn on anyway,
Right.
whereas if you just
Well,
have it
it's
on a
under the
timer.
porch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was just like one of the things that I like, because it's not very bright out there.
I don't have an objection to either one of
Not
those.
at
Like I said, the interior one, I can just go get a fixture from like Lowe's or something.
And well, I mean, no offense to you, Peter.
Yeah.
You don't have time. is the thing.
yeah.
Sue.
What?
You were talking about making the light on, like light on a. It would be on all day on a, over a weekend.
Well, but if it's an LED, it's not gonna take that much.
Yeah, it's
power.
not
Yeah.
using that much juice.
Let's put a timer.
Yeah, I think timer's
Or-
probably the
yeah.
simplest, easiest thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, no objections there. Whether it's one of us doing it or getting an electrician out, we'll make it happen. That's an easy enough thing to
just
accomplish.
listen, You know, I think if the building would be a little bit more public, it wouldn't freak me out as
No,
much.
no,
but-
it's a
'cause
concern.
tough
It's a
out
valid,
Here in nowhere's land, you
Yeah.
know,
it's a valid concern.
it's just a
absolutely.
little freaky.
Yeah.
Especially right now, you know,
Guys
especially
on
with
the
what's going
alarm
on.
may be able to change that as well.
Well, that's a possibility. I didn't
Yeah.
have to ask him. but-
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, awesome.
Okay, next up, we're getting towards the end of the agenda is the PSAT membership dues. We got an invoice for that.
I don't know if you reviewed it at all.
I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to read
I
it.
mean, it's standard.
Yep.
It's what we,
How much is it?
We'll look at that Thursday
Um,
night. I'd imagine it's just gonna be a
1120,
situation. to pay it.
$1,120, but it's for
Yeah.
all the services that,
Yeah, we use PSATs all the
Lot.
time. Yeah,
I mean, it's the CDL, it's the magazines, it's
Yep.
the
Yeah.
webinar power pass, it's just everything. you
Yeah.
know.
yeah, I didn't read it yet, but it's gonna be the same thing it was the
Yeah,
past couple of years.
exactly.
We're gonna approve it.
You gonna wait till Thursday to approve it?
I mean, if you wanted, you can make a motion at any
Yeah,
time,
it's up
Jim.
to you.
Let's make a motion to pay the PSAP membership dues of $1,120.
Second,
Roll call, Peter,
aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Okay,
Motion carried.
I'll make sure you get that bill, Irene.
Okay, next is the PSATs 2021 salary survey. It is now available. Really not much more to
It's
discuss on that.
online and I
It's-
also
Yeah,
scanned it,
so
so,
you're able to take it if you want to take it.
yeah.
Next is the PSATs 2022 Educational Conference and Exhibit Show. This will be held from April 24th to the 27th at the Hershey Lodge. Registration opens January 11th, 2021, and can be done online. Cost of this is $175 per person. The cost and mileage is paid by the township.
So you would just need to authorize who can go.
I'd wanna
According to
look-
This, it says.
Are there road-related things on it, or is it
Yes,
mostly?
wait,
Okay,
somewhere it actually says there are workshops for supervisors, council members, secretaries, managers, treasurers, administrators, tax collectors, police, fire, EMS personnel, parks and recreation, public works, and road crew employees, and zoning and building code officers.
Okay.
There are workshops for those people. And I think it says somewhere that those are the people who they recommend attend, something like that. So it's up to you. If you want to do it now, Thursday, whatever, but we would need a motion to authorize and pay for whoever you want to go. I have a whole, in fact, we got 3. If any of you want one of these packets, we got 3 of them.
So that's a Sunday through a,
I, you can authorize me to go if you want, but I'm not gonna go because it's meeting week
yeah,
yeah,
and I cannot take off Monday through Wednesday and then have a meeting Thursday.
Yeah.
I just can't do that.
yeah, I won't be able to go because of the dates.
Okay. And I think they kind of plan this around Easter and then they try to they like move it in the weeks, you know, because different townships have different meeting dates.
Yeah.
So it just is not gonna happen for me this year.
We should probably send Butch. He's
Yeah, I just
Well,
kind of
and he-
gave
If
him,
John's available.
Yeah,
John could probably teach the class.
John usually is not available. So, but I'll ask him if he wants to go.
I mean, we can authorize secretary, supervisor and road crew to
Yeah.
attend if
here
interested.
it says, section 607(4) of the Township Code authorizes the Board of Supervisors to send any other township employee, including roadmasters and public works employees, or other elected or appointed officials such as township solicitors and engineers, planning commission members, and emergency management coordinators to the conference up here. Section 1402D of the Township Code authorizes the Board of Supervisors to designate one or more of the following elected or appointed officials to attend the annual conference as a delegate. As a delegate. The supervisors, the township secretary, the township treasurer, and our township manager. You have to appoint a delegate. That's the voting person. So anyway, I know in the past it was supervisors, secretary, treasurer. Is that it? I think so.
Yeah, so
So whoever you want
supervisors,
to authorize.
treasurer, road crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this says their workshops for road crew, and I know there's a bunch of,
Yeah.
there's a, in their exhibit room, there's a lot
I
of
think-
road crew
They
stuff.
they have stuff for EMCs too.
Apparently, they
Yeah,
have
so
workshops,
I'll
yeah.
I'll ask
Yeah.
him if he's interested. And I'll give you an answer by our meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, Let's just find out who's interested to go and
yeah, and
Yeah.
then make the motion accordingly.
Yeah, I know I can't.
And then we appoint the voting person at the reorg meeting, and that can be whoever is going.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the secretary.
Yeah.
or the supervisor. Okay.
Okay. Last but not least is the Act 537. We're gonna be kicking off the income study next year with, I believe the lady's name was Colleen, I just messed her name up, but the individual that McCarthy Engineering connected us with earlier this year, we'll be kicking that off with her so we can get the income study done. Our letters were mailed out Tuesday, November 9th. Alan Madera, our SEO, will be sending his, starting his program in January and sending out his letters soon. I do need to call Alan because you had said his website has, I think, an error in terms of which area needs to
I
go in what year.
called
Yeah.
down there, or I actually called down there and spoke to Amber, and she said she would have it changed. As of
Perfect.
Friday, it wasn't changed.
Okay,
yet.
well, I'll call
But
again on Monday if it's not
I
changed.
called the next day, I think it was, because if that's in the information they're sending out.
Then that's a
that needs to
problem.
be changed.
Yeah, so I'll call again on Monday
Okay,
and I'll see if I can talk to him, but I know I saw your text message that you had said about that. So.
yeah, and I
I'll-
thought maybe I was misunderstanding something.
Nope.
That's-
No, I think it's just he probably put 1 year
Yeah.
in reverse the other, but
Okay.
So I have a concern about this.
Okay.
Okay. How are we going to keep track of people being compliant with this?
Alan is,
So we don't have anything to do with that.
Alan is enforcement. That's one
That's
of the
why
reasons
we
we
gave-
chose this.
We gave him a list, and
So
he,
so I
his
don't have
staff,
to worry
and-
about this at
Correct.
all.
his staff and
Thank you.
I have been like
Yeah,
tweaking that list.
okay.
And we
Yeah.
think we have it, like Alan said, there's gonna be a few mistakes, there's gonna be some
Absolutely.
properties that are
Yeah.
one that should, or vice versa, you know. And we'll work that out, hopefully the first year.
Yeah, yeah. For example, if somebody gets a letter for like a field, and they're like, no, there's no house here. If they come in and they say that, and we look it up and we go, yeah, okay, we'll just
Okay.
refund them the money.
So I don't have to worry
Well,
about.
then we have
keeping
to figure
track
out
of
how to
this
take
data
that off.
then.
Oh, yeah, we just have to
Okay.
ask them to take it off the tax.
You can,
bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
we can deal with that.
Okay.
We have to give them a list every year though, don't we?
Yeah,
just take it
yes,
off the
and that
list.
is one of the, we have to figure
Right,
out,
We're gonna do that. Yeah,
because the way I read the instructions is you have to put the parcel, like, you have to like individually put each parcel number in.
it's gonna be such a pain in the neck.
And
No, well,
I'm
I'll come in and I'll help you figure that out.
hoping that that's not true. I was
Right.
gonna call them and say, can't we just send you a list?
You should absolutely be able to send them a
Because
list.
there's a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we
properties on
don't,
that list.
we don't have a
But that's
huge
that
number of
website.
properties. We've got a lot, but
That was
other
that
places,
website,
that's.
Right,
Say it again.
that was that test website.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, now it's up and running. It's
Yeah.
not a test anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll look at it. There's no way that you guys are gonna put everything in by hand like
Well,
that.
and I
That's just
thought maybe
insanity.
Josh would come in over,
Yeah.
Yeah.
over Christmas.
Well,
Yeah.
even so, you guys
holiday,
shouldn't
that
have to be
kind of
entering in 500 or
data.
600
But just to
properties
take it
like
from the
that.
spreadsheet and physically put it
Yeah.
in,
That's,
that's what you have to do.
no matter how good you are about that, like, I'll say 600, there's like 600 points of potential human failure.
Oh,
Where you
exactly.
could copy and
Yeah.
paste the same thing twice or miss
Yeah,
one. Or,
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's just, if we have a list, we should absolutely be able to give them the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Is Alan also going to coordinate with the pumpers that
yes,
here's
Yeah.
the time I'm going
Yeah.
to be there?
yes,
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge.
That's-
I
and that's-
see. He's
Mhm.
taking care of that. right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason that we chose this, the solution that we did when we first looked at this many years ago is, one, we went with an impartial third party as the SEO and the pumper so that we have no conflicts of interest or bias.
Yeah.
Secondarily, the way this system is outlined is to have us as minimally involved in it as possible. The only things that we have our hands on is what the properties are that need to be billed for, like the fee. And if somebody pays something, it's like it was with the other SEO, we take the money in, we send the
Just
money
like
out.
pass through.
And that's
Right.
it. That's our sole involvement
Right.
with this. We're not in the sewage business. We don't want to be in the
Good.
sewage business. We want somebody who is, that's their jam. That's what they do. We want them doing it. We
Right.
want their expertise. We want their knowledge. We want their skill. That's the
Super.
reason we
Right.
purchased the service.
Super.
And going back a little bit to the last meeting when Nelson Troutman made a comment, and this, I don't know if you guys thought about it a lot, I thought about it. And so I think his argument was, I'm not producing contaminants so that the water isn't contaminated and the runoff from my farm isn't an issue. But that's not even the problem. And so his premise was, this isn't a one size fits all issue. And that argument can be just dismissed because this is, the law applies to us equally kind of an argument. I don't care, I shouldn't say that. I hope that everyone has best practices, whether it's their personal residence or their farm, that they're not putting things into our ground to contaminate our ground, our food system, et cetera, our water. The only question that we have is, does your septic system function? That's it, period, end of the statement. There's nothing else that goes along with it. Everyone poops, everyone pees, it goes into the septic system. Does your poop and pee, is your system properly function? That's it. Josh would have loved that.
Yep.
And so if you have a private pumper coming to certify you, if that pumper says to you, hey, your system's busted, you need to fix it, that goes nowhere. You could say, I'm not using you again. 2-3 years later, you go get another guy. I'm not using you again. Stop telling me that the system's broken, just pump it out. So that certification or that information goes nowhere. This is why we have Alan. This is why we have a separate SEO, because he says your system's broken, because Alan gets paid whether your system's broken or it's intact. We have nothing to do with it. And I think that's something that was missed when Nelson was up here and kind of saying his piece, but at the same time, it's like, I think we were just, there was a barrage of information he was throwing at us. And it's like, but you have a septic system. We can all probably say human contaminants are the minimum of the problem when it comes to contaminated water. The DEP doesn't care. We've been down that road before. The DEP wants to know if your septic system functions, yes or no. That's all that this is. And this is a yes or no situation for us.
Yes, and
Right.
to Nelson's thing about other
Yeah.
people inspecting it, it's not the same inspection.
Right,
And I think maybe it missed the mark when I said like the difference between inspection and emissions on your car. It's the same car.
right,
It's two very different inspections.
Right.
Sometimes you have to have one, sometimes you don't, you have to have the other. But it's the same thing. If the feds come out and say, yep, you have a septic system. Yes, they're inspecting your septic system, but it's a very different inspection than
Yep.
somebody looking at it and making sure it actually works right.
right. And so now we're getting information from our SEO saying the system's working, the system's not working. Because your private pumper may or may not send us information.
Yeah, they may just pump it out and say, yeah, it's a septic system,
Yeah,
sure.
it's fine. And because they have interest in keeping you as a customer. And I think just that entire point was missed because he was just angry. And so you have a septic system, you have something, it's a yes or no. Is it functioning? Yes or no? This is our third party person that's coming in to say yes or no. That's it. And Alan gets paid irregardless. If it's working? or
Not to mention
working.
Alan's not doing the repairs, so
Right.
it's not like there's any vested interest in Alan to do the stuff. You as a homeowner can go and any company you want to
Right.
do the repairs. And I'm
Do
sure
we
it's
have-
going to
do we
vary.
have something on the books about how this is going to take place if someone's fails?
Well, there's state laws
I
about
mean, I
this.
hope they still don't ignore us and say, oh, well, yeah, it's broken.
Oh, yeah, no,
We'll
there's-
get
there's-
that fixed.
No, there's requirements around that.
Okay.
Generally, in the past, when we've had this, like when Gary was the SEO, we would work with you on that. We'd make sure that we weren't like putting somebody else out of house and home over something, but the expectation was to get it fixed as expediently as possible. And like I said, there's whole areas of law and regulation around that with the Department of Environmental Protection, and I'm sure there's some other things that go into it, but it's not like we can say, oh, it's broken, you need to fix it, and people can go, oh, that's nice.
Was
And
he-
then-
So
like
if
he
he
would-
fails a system, there's
There's
procedure.
recourse. There's
He would
absolutely.
inspect
Yeah.
it, he would inspect it and tell you what's wrong and then have to issue a permit for that repair. So he's gonna come back and say, did you fix it? Because,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I mean-
that was my question. How turn something up? Is there a paper that has to be signed to send?
he has to issue a
Yeah,
permit.
He has
for
to issue the
it.
permit for it. And not that I want to see anybody get to that route, but if there was a situation, and this is absolute worst case scenario, if you don't have a working sewage disposal system for a residence, it's not a residence anymore. It's an uninhabitable space. It's no different than a garage at that point.
And
So,
that, a copy of that permit goes to DEP. I mean,
Yep.
It's basically a DEP permit.
yeah.
It's
So-
not a township permit.
Yeah, and
It's,
we're
it's-
operating on the legal stuff, a
Mhm.
layer above us from
Mhm.
from a governmental standpoint. So,
See, a lot of people don't know that.
yeah.
Right.
And
Right,
even
yeah.
when you try to explain it, I think it misses the mark sometimes, where it's like, this isn't stuff that we're unilaterally doing. Yes, like, I mean, you should have some sort of check and balance so that you have clean drinking water and you don't have people contaminating, but
Like my brother, he says, he gets two inspectors that come on and checking and testing for and stuff.
yeah.
Right.
But he don't know if his septic system.
It's
It might be
functioning.
working or not.
Yeah.
His well might be fine, but he might be polluting people next door. You never know. And even as a homeowner, and I know I do this, I imagine other people do, it's a good idea to get your water tested periodically. Like, if you're a sensible, responsible person, you should be doing that regardless of if you're getting your septic system pumped out every couple of years or inspected. It's just a thing you should do.
Mhm.
So,
So can I just add?
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
basically, Alan is employed by the township.
Right.
But Alan is overseen by DEP.
yeah.
Right.
But it's
They,
it's the same thing with like craft codes. They
Right.
inspect our building
Right.
stuff, but they're overseen by a state regulatory
Right,
agency.
Right.
right.
And just to reiterate, we have no financial gain. We have
Yeah.
zero financial gain over failing someone or passing someone.
Yeah.
It's out of the
It's, I mean,
equation.
the
Right.
fee is basically passed.
It
Right.
is a 100%
Right.
pass through. The only thing that we might have is we actually, as the township, might incur cost for things that we need Alan to do that are municipal related, sending
Right.
out letters and things like that.
Mhm.
So we're absolutely not making
Right,
money on
right.
this. We're
Right.
spending
Right.
money or trying to have it as little spend as possible for everybody, but going through this process because it is a absolute requirement of state law.
Right. And so again, like, I think people think that we're just trying to create a hardship or something, an obstacle. This is our responsibility. And I think people don't see that. This is what we
Yeah.
have to do. And we're trying to do the best and most objective way possible and make it equal across the board. Period. End of the statement. If you think you have a special circumstance, and you can write a letter to the DEP and ask for some type of a waiver. We have been told this is what we need to do. We have enacted the proper ordinance in order to
Did your
accomplish
mic
it.
die? Did your microphone die?
Yeah.
Just turn it off.
Yeah. So-
Okay.
Okay. So
Um,
have we been getting any more angry phone calls about it or no?
No.
Okay, excellent.
Kelly, I
No.
saw your hand up back there.
This would like you to clarify what you were saying earlier. The coordination.
Yeah.
On the pump out versus the SEO.
So the way that this works is, my personal suggestion is to do it this way rather than the other. You can do it either way, is contact the SEO and say, I need to get my system pumped out. When are you available? Because chances are he's going to be, I don't want to make it sound like he's not going to be available, but he's probably going to have more things going on than the pumper will. So if you say, contact him first, would be my personal suggestion. You say, okay, when can I do this? And he may say, like, I can do it anytime on Tuesday, just let me know. So you call your pumper and say, hey, I want to have my system pumped out on Tuesday. And they say, yeah, I can come out at 10. You turn around, you say, hey, Alan, 10 o'clock on Tuesday. They come out, they pump while the system's empty. Alan looks, checks the baffles, make sure you don't have any cracks in your tanks, et cetera, whatever else he needs to do. And assuming there's nothing wrong, he gives it his blessing, goes on his way, and you go on your way, and you don't have to do anything for another 4 years. If you do it kind of the opposite way, you can call the pumper and you can set up a time with them, but you run the risk of when you call the SEO, they may say, I'm really sorry, I can't do Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I'm going to be in Honeybrook or something like that. So I think you're going to have better results, less headaches in terms of trying to schedule that by scheduling with the SEO first.
And that's gonna be communicated. with the
Yeah.
letter from this.
Yeah.
It should
It should
be.
be,
He's
yes.
sending out
He's-
a lot of information.
And he does multiple other townships. So this is not a new thing. This isn't somebody that we brought in, that this is their first rodeo, so to speak.
With
So
us.
You can go on his
Well, yeah.
website, Burke's Envirotech, and see all of this information.
So the SEO is not physically talking to the pumper.
Correct.
It's the homeowner
yes,
doing all that.
yes. Yeah, so you set it up that I want to have it at this time, and you get that coordinated for both of them to be out there, and that's
I
it.
wonder if there's any way that Alan can put a calendar up online. I do this
Maybe.
myself. I
Yeah.
have a calendar online that tells all my associates when I'm available if they need help. So they fill that in as it goes, but it takes that spot then out, because if Peter says, well, I need you to go out with me to see a business on Tuesday the 11th, he puts it in my calendar, boom, it's done.
Yeah, I'll make a note here to ask him about that, because I mean, that's a pretty simple like Outlook calendar function. You
Yeah.
just put a meeting on there and it shows that it's booked or not, but if he can do that, that might make that even easier.
Have something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, where you pick an appointment time.
But bottom line
Yeah.
is he's going to send a bunch of stuff. The letter we sent out was kind of the soft opener for that. The real meat and potatoes of this is going to come directly from the SEO, because that's what he does.
He has this time available. Can you
Yeah.
come that time?
Yeah.
I don't want to create any more frustration.
Yeah,
Right.
I want this to be as simple and easy as possible for people. And it's going to be, admittedly speaking, the first time that we go through this, there's going to be some bumps. There's going to be some hiccups. It's unavoidable. We still want to make it as easy as possible.
But I
So-
don't want to be able to say, "Well, Alan, you're available Tuesday at 10. Okay, thank you. I called the pumper. I'm not available Tuesday at 10.
Yeah.
When are you available?
Well,
I
mean, the only counterpoint I'd say is
Thursday at 10.
we
No,
have-
I'm not available. I gotta
we
go
have
out.
one SEO. You could call multiple pumpers.
Yeah.
And say like, okay, this person's not available at 10, but I'll
Well,
call
and
the other place.
According to his fee schedule, he has 3 people,
Yeah.
him and 2 other people.
Yeah, I don't
So it-
realistically think it's going to be that big of a deal, but my personal thing like would be call him first, because chances are you're going to have more availability from the company that's going to be pumping rather than from the SEO. Just my general assessment.
Makes sense.
Last thing we need to do, and I forget if I said it already or not, is we're adding the $50 pump out inspection fee to the 2020 tax bills. And we need to make sure that when we do that by resolution to set the fee schedule for 2022, that is included as a component of it. So that when we're setting all the other fees, that's in there too.
Mhm.
That is the final item on the agenda. I don't have any additional comments. Irene, do you have any comments?
I had Rick come help me fix some other minor issues that we had with our QuickBooks program. And we're looking pretty good going into the end of the year. And I could actually confidently close out the books and prepare everything for the auditor. I'm actually going to be able to send them everything, hopefully by January 2nd or 3rd. I'm gonna send them everything as a flash drive and say, I have an appointment date with them February 8th. They're gonna come in here, so hopefully they'll be able to review everything ahead of time and have it as a very smooth kind of
Good.
transition this year, I hope so.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, great help from Rick. I can't thank him enough. And Aiken's accounting is just wonderful, so.
Yeah, I think both of
Yeah.
those decisions around financial services were
Oh,
good.
yeah.
They've been immensely helpful.
Oh, extremely so. It's just finding a good group of people to work with has just been absolutely fantastic. So, yeah.
Jim?
Nothing other than, do you have time to go out to the fire hall today and support the.
Yep.
That's right,
families
cookie sale.
that had Issues.
Yeah.
I believe my wife took the kids this morning.
Thank
I
you.
know,
Yeah.
I know my wife thought it was a great idea that she'd have to bake cookies this year. She could just-
Yeah.
So,
Let me just say that's to benefit the Hoover family
Yes.
who was in an very,
Very
very
severe
tragic
accident.
accident.
Okay, Sue, anything for you?
I just want to say big thank you to Mark Fessler for removing a tree that was down on Charming Forge Road. I was trying to coordinate road crew and Mark to come out because he's a skid loader. And they went and checked it out, and Mark moved a tree. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Okay. We don't have anything additional. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 11:18 a.m.
One more thing.
Oh.
Is there a second?
Second,
Roll call, Peter.
Hi.
Oh, did you have something?
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yeah.
Merry
See you after the
Christmas.
holiday.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Roll call, Peter.
Hi.
Irene.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Okay, meeting
All right.
adjourned. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.